the majority of platforms that we go live on. How are we all doing? Hello, Josh. Hello, JK Boy Gaming. How we feeling? Hello, Craven, over on the Twitch. Appreciate it. Talkers in there. We are in Azerbaijan, the Baku weekend. Monza is done, ticked off the list. Do we count Azerbaijan as European? It's kind of on the borderline, isn't it? We'll say yes. So it is the final race of the European stint. We're off to Singapore in a couple of weeks' time. So it feels like the last middle part of the season, European stint. We're in the final third of the 2025 campaign, which feels ridiculous to say. We've only got 8 Grand Prix left, 16 completed. Obviously, this weekend will make it 17. You'd call it Europe. I think I'd call it Europe as well. I think we're just about holding on to the European part of the season before Formula One heads back into the rest of the world. Got a little bit of an Asian stint, obviously the US, South America as well. Possibility of rain for qualifying. It is looking likely. It's looking like it is going to rain. I was out earlier on, you know, when you just like see the clouds and you have a feeling. That's the kind of vibe that I'm getting from the Azerbaijan track right now. Just looking at the clouds overhead, it kind of feels like there's something in the air. Technically, most of Baku is in Asia. See, that's what I mean. It's on that borderline. Are they in Eurovision? Does that count? Are Azerbaijan in like UEFA competition? Do they qualify for the World Cup as part of Europe, or do they qualify for the World Cup as part of Asia? These are the things that we have to gauge the political climate on. that's my thoughts and feelings. I thought I was not live streaming. I am always live streaming. I don't know why. I just completely forgot to hit the public button. Like, set up all the live stream, it was ready to go, did it a couple of days ago, probably more, but then just decided to leave it in private. I've done that before where I've started the stream and it's still been on private, so it happens. The best of us, you know, we make little mistakes here and there. I'm not a professional. Once this is my full-time job, I feel like, or if, should never say once, if this becomes my full-time job, then I feel like those mistakes less likely to happen. Or at least you can give me less slack for those happening. On that note, if you do want to support me, you can become a member, like the wonderful members, some of which are in the chat. Or if you want to support me even more so, we are trying to get the new podcast channel monetized on YouTube. So if you don't know, we have started a brand new podcast. I say we, it's me, Dan No Skill, Mr. V, Mr. Pulse, and Formula Duck. The 5 of us all working together on this brand new project. We have smashed through 2,000 subscribers over on that channel. But for YouTube to monetize you, you also have to get 4,000 watch hours. So if you haven't seen the podcast from this weekend yet, or you just want to, you know, run it in the background whilst you're doing something else later, those watch hours really do add up for us, and we're very, very, very close to being able to monetize that channel. And then more content will be able to be made on there because we'll have access to a little bit of funding from that channel to be able to do stuff. And there's some big ideas that we've got over on the Crash Happy podcast channel. So make sure that you check it out if you haven't already. That is my spiel. Don't worry, I'll do another one later. But for now, nice segue. Thank you very much. Let's talk Baku. I feel like this could be an interesting one, even without the possibility of rain tumbling down, which, as you guys have said in the chat, would be absolutely chaotic here in Baku. even without that, I feel like this weekend just has something a little bit about it. You know, it's got a Monza type feel in the very, very high speed sections of the track. We know that Monza sort of threw up a little bit of a discussion point. Max Verstappen winning it was not one that I had. And then also the fact that, what is my Twitch? I think it's just not applicable, JB. Same as everything else. Yeah, Max Verstappen winning it. The McLaren cars having to swap back around again. A little bit controversial from the McLaren team. They love to put themselves in the headlines when they really don't have to. Obviously, both of the drivers have talked about it since then. Oscar Piastri, I think, dealt with it very well. You know, he said himself there was no real win in that situation because either they let him stay in front of Lando and then there'd be the complaints from the media that McLaren kind of messed up that pit stop for Lando Norris and therefore it was the team's fault, not the driver's fault. And then there's the other side of the coin, which Piastri explained. He was like, so if I let Lando Norris pass, then we had all the chaos that we had anyway. I feel like still, though, we haven't had a proper battle between the two McLaren cars. Even last time out in Monza, Lando Norris was clearly the quicker car throughout the race, and it was Piastri fighting with Leclerc and Norris fighting with Verstappen. You know, we haven't seen the two McLaren cars really go at one another yet, and that's just something really missing from this season, in my opinion. We want to see, when there's a title battle, the two title contenders actually going wheel to wheel. So that's one thing I'm hoping that maybe we'll get from this weekend, because actually Oscar was very quick here last year. Lando has had a pretty decent weekend so far, apart from free practice 2 where he managed to put the car into the wall. But I think last year, with Norris missing out due to qualifying, wasn't really his fault. You know, you could argue that he should have got a banker lap in earlier, etc., etc. But you know, Esteban Ocon pulling to the side of the road and then having those yellow flags, there wasn't really much Lando could do about that. I'm hoping this year is the year, right? I'm hoping this race is the race, this year is the year. We're going to see both of the McLaren cars actually go at it. And maybe we'll even see like a Verstappen-Ricciardo style battle where they just smash into one another. Because we're also missing that from this year's title fight, aren't we? A proper, I suppose they hit into each other in Canada, but even then it wasn't like a proper hit because Piastri just continued on somehow like nothing had happened. Primed to be another Q1 Norris, Q2 Norris, Q3 someone else. Yeah, Lando has had that little bit of a problem, hasn't he, Mr. Pulse, where he just doesn't quite get it done in Q3. But then that's also because last time out, Max Verstappen just continually got better and better and better. Like, I don't know how Max does it. He just slowly progresses throughout the sessions where other drivers sort of hit their peak and then they can repeat that peak, but they can't necessarily find more lap time. Max Verstappen always just seems to be able to find an extra 10th or 2. It's crazy. Just left a live stream where a guy ejected meth. Well, welcome to here. Let's, you know, be here instead. Let's talk about Formula 1. Max Verstappen. Imagine Max does an incredible World Drivers' Championships, makes both McLarens bottle it. Can't see both of the McLarens bottling it. They're too far ahead in the Drivers' Championship for my liking. But we can get some predictions in. Certainly, Max Verstappen, the likelihood of him being on pole position again. Track very similar to Monza in that he's got those very, very low downforce sections. I'm imagining the skinny rear wings are back out again. And Red Bull, they brought their own skinny rear wing. They realized that Monza was maybe an opportunity to actually get that win for Verstappen. And it worked out perfectly. Why not have that same rear wing? The only problem is the middle section of Baku is a lot tighter than any of the corners that you really get in Monza. I know there's a lot of chicanes when it comes to the Monza Grand Prix, but Baku with those 90-degree turns in that first sector and then the really tricky section sort of past the castle through the middle part of the lap. Yes, you can run the really, really skinny rear wings, but you're going to be able to then, or you're going to be able to make up time on the straights, but you'll lose quite a bit of time through that middle part of the lap. Like, Maybe we'll see a little bit of flexi rear wings again. You know, this was the controversial one where we saw Oscar Piastri's rear wing opening just a little bit. The letterbox opening up on the DRS down those back straights. So, I don't know. It's definitely one where if you're a gambling man, you should likely go for the two McLarens dominating the weekend. You know, that has been the story of the season, the majority of what we've seen so far. But it could also, I just feel like, be a Red Bull weekend. Ferrari also, they seemed happier with how their weekend is going so far. I remember Lewis Hamilton saying after the first couple of free practice sessions that they tried something a little bit different and it actually worked. So he's feeling a little bit more confident inside of the car. Charles Leclerc looks quick as well. Charles Leclerc was quick here last year as well. I don't know. It feels like this weekend is set up to be maybe one of the last weekends of the season where it could be a proper battle, a proper mix-up of cars before we then go into Singapore, where I feel like McLaren will dominate, and places like Austria, places like Austin, where again I feel like the McLarens will just dominate. What are my thoughts on Kimi? It's a big step up for Kimi, isn't it? Does it feel like too much too soon? Maybe you could argue that, but you know, he started the season so well. I think he's just lost his confidence, and the Mercedes team haven't been able to give him that confidence back. Oh, what is that? Haven't been able to give him that confidence back at any point this year so far. So he just needs time inside of the car, right? He needs time. Unfortunately, because he's in a Mercedes, because he's next to George Russell, because he's one of the big four teams right now, there's a lot of eyes on him all of the time. You know, we talk a lot more about Kimi Antonelli than we do about any of the other rookies, I would say, because he's in a Mercedes and, you know, he's gone straight in there. Would we be talking about him this much if he was in a Williams car? Probably not. Would we be talking about him this much if he was, I was going to say, where there's not many other seats where there's rookies not in there, right? If he was in another team outside of kind of Ferrari, Mercedes, Red Bull, McLaren, we'd definitely be talking about him a lot less. He just needs time. Give him some time. Talk to me about Kimi Antonelli in 2 seasons. If by 2027 he really still isn't performing, then I think Mercedes have got a problem. But I think this year you can give him the benefit of the doubt. It's his first year in Formula One. He's the youngest rookie by a considerable margin. I know he had a lot of running in old Mercedes machinery, and you could say, well, Isaac Hadjar, Gabriel Bortoleto had a lot less running in Formula One machinery. In fact, Gabriel Bortoleto had almost no running in Formula One machinery, right? Or very, very little. I can't think of an opportunity that he had in Formula One machinery when he was with the McLaren Junior program last year. Someone can correct me if I'm wrong, but that's by the by. You know, Kimi Antonelli has that experience, but doesn't have the experience of actually being in a Formula One setting. What country do I live in? This is the United Kingdom that I am in right now. It is currently 12:45. We have 15 minutes away from the start of qualifying here in Azerbaijan. And everybody's keeping an eye on the radar, I think, of just when that rain is likely to come, if that rain is likely to come, and what we do next. Good question, though. I think like Kimi Antonelli is definitely a talking point. From Estonia, that's pretty cool. China, Miami, Canada, Silverstone, Netherlands, and Singapore. What is that list? Just races you have enjoyed? China, Miami, Canada, Silverstone, Netherlands, and Singapore. Races where, I was going to say Ferrari has done well, but actually China, no. Races where Mercedes has done well? Possibly. Do I think Gasly has a chance? No. No. Thoughts on 2026 Singapore GP Sprint? Oh, they're the sprint races. Ah, very, very good. Oh, what have I done there? There you go. They're the sprint races. That's China, I feel like, was a good sprint weekend this year. I feel like it being so early in the calendar was maybe a bit of a misnomer. Like, not everybody was set up perfectly the way that they wanted to be set up. But Miami is, again, a weird sprint weekend. I feel like the worst ones of those are Miami and Singapore, right? Singapore, as a sprint weekend, it's a tough track to overtake unless you've got a real tire delta. And even with a real tire delta, it is still tough. So I think sprint races, they have to be in tracks where there is an opportunity to still overtake even when you don't have a ridiculous tire advantage, because sprint races, you never have a tire advantage. Everybody's basically on the same tires for the entirety of it because we don't have pit stops during a sprint race. So it needs to be a track where you can still overtake, or the DRS is really overpowered, or that kind of thing. Although, having said that, 2026, we have no idea. Maybe these cars, because they're like shorter and skinnier, maybe there'll be an opportunity for overtaking to be easier than it is right now. And maybe the cars will be set up perfectly to be able to overtake in races like Miami and races like Singapore. So we'll have to wait and see. It's a bit tough to judge them because we don't know how the 2026 cars are going to act yet. But looking at them purely subjectively, if you told me that they were the sprints for this year, I'd be like, there are definitely better choices. Like, I feel like Austria is a good sprint weekend. Brazil is a good sprint weekend. Those tracks where there's a bit of drama, there's a little bit more going on. And there's certainly the opportunity for people to actually battle with one another. You know, if you told me Monaco was going to be a sprint weekend, it would just be the most dull sprint weekend that there is, right? Because it would all be down to the 2 qualifying sessions. I suppose we'd get 2 qualifying sessions rather than 1. And actually in Monaco, the qualifying session is the exciting part. So we'd get 2 of those rather than 1. But the 2 races would basically just be 2 parades, right? And I worry that Singapore could end up being like that for the sprint race. It's an interesting one. Do I think that Yuki or Lawson will lose their seat next year? Of the 2, I feel like Yuki is more likely to. Lawson's already back in the sister team, is doing fairly well. So I feel like Lawson is doing okay. And we'll kind of be in that Gasly mold now where he just stays at the sister team for a little while. And then once the sister team moves him on somewhere else, or once an opportunity arises somewhere else, maybe Lawson can escape. Hadjar just feels like the driver that's going to get promoted into the Red Bull seat. They know that they want Arvid Lindblad in some way or another into one of those seats as well. So it just feels like Yuki Tsunoda is the clear one that will make way for Arvid Lindblad. Hadjar's doing too well. Lawson's actually found his feet once again and has got a bit more. He's got a bit more leeway, because Yuki Tsunoda's had 5 full seasons, you know, whereas Lawson's had bit parts throughout. This is his first full season in the sport, Liam Lawson. So I feel like Red Bull can give him a little bit more leeway on how things have gone, and the mistake that they made putting him into the main team straight off the bat and then getting rid of him after 2 races is what it is now. Unfortunately, it's going to be a little bit of a mark on Lawson's career. But yeah, I think Yuki will end up losing his seat. Maybe he'll find a seat somewhere else. I, speculated on whether or not he could slot into an Alpine. Daniel Ricciardo, yeah, unfortunately, Daniel Ricciardo's retired from racing, which I wasn't expecting, actually. On that note, that was one of the things I had written down in my notes, wasn't expecting Daniel Ricciardo to retire from racing so early. It feels like, he had the opportunity to... I think the thing with Daniel is it's always been Formula One or nothing. Like, even when he was leaving McLaren, Zach Brown tried to give him loads of opportunities. You know, we have the McLaren IndyCar team, and I think Zach Brown would have certainly allowed Daniel Ricciardo to move into the McLaren Arrows IndyCar team. He was talking to various NASCAR teams as well and trying to get Daniel Ricciardo in there. But Daniel Ricciardo always had his eyes set on Formula One. I think Formula One has always been the one type of motorsport that's dragged him in the most. You know, Daniel Ricciardo's number 3 is literally because of NASCAR. Like, the reason he races with number 3. So I don't know why Daniel Ricciardo didn't decide to have a go at IndyCar or have a go at NASCAR or even like something different. They're the two that kind of catch my eye the most because they're the American based ones. But, you know, he could have even gone into like monster trucks or something really random, because he's got the appeal behind him and he's got the fan base behind him that any sport that could get Daniel Ricciardo in would benefit from that massively. So yeah, I just don't know why Daniel Ricciardo has been convinced or maybe talked himself into retiring from the sport, because as I say, he could have certainly gone somewhere and done something, but maybe he's just lost a little bit of his passion for racing. And even with a new challenge where going into NASCAR, going into IndyCar, he was just like, he maybe just doesn't want that lifestyle anymore. You know, he's done that, been there, done it, raced for so many years, been part of the Formula One paddock for so many years, and had to deal with the travel and the fact that you don't really get to live your life for 9 months of the year. Maybe he's just had enough of that. And then I can respect that too. But I would have loved to have seen Daniel Ricciardo, as I say, go into a NASCAR. I feel like NASCAR is the one for me. Just have a go. See what you think. Like, maybe give it half a season. But I don't know. What do you think? Who would have liked to have seen Daniel Ricciardo? I don't think Formula One was ever going to happen again. You know, that second Red Bull seat when he wasn't there. I think that was just the end of the end. But where else would you have liked to have seen Daniel Ricciardo? Because retiring just feels like too big of a step, too young for Daniel Ricciardo, but driver of his quality at least. Le Mans, yeah, okay. Maybe he likes gardening. I don't know if he has much of a garden, but I definitely know that he likes just dirt biking in his backyard. So not much of a garden, more of a hills with dirt pack. Ricciardo in WEC, yeah, I could have seen that. Although I don't know how endurance-y he would be, like whether he'd want to do 24-hour racing somewhere. I feel like that's only a very particular drivers are built for that, going into like 24 hours. World Rally would have been really cool. Yeah, that is a good shout. Thoughts on Sainz at Williams so far? Disappointing, but not like completely unexpected. I think we knew it was going to take time to adapt, and that Williams car is pretty hard to drive, but I don't think we expected it to take this long to adapt. And we weren't expecting this big of a gap between him and Albon, certainly. I think that's the big thing for me, is a lot of people were saying before the season started, you know, this is going to be the first big test for Alex Albon, and this will likely be the driver pairing that is closest in the championship. You know, we had a lot of people debating like who will finish higher, Albon or Sainz, and a lot of people had them basically neck and neck in their predictions. Actually, Alex Albon has completely wiped the floor with Carlos Sainz this year, and maybe that just goes to show experience within these Formula One teams pays a lot more than we maybe give credit for. But then actually the rookies are doing really well. Like Bortoleto is smashing Hulkenberg in qualifying, and Behrman is absolutely rinsing Esteban Ocon at the minute as well. Like, it just feels like, yeah, Sainz probably the biggest disappointment of the season so far, but I don't necessarily think that means 2026 he can't bounce back from this. I don't understand. Explain the Hamilton situation, please. What situation? His move to Ferrari? Hamilton washed? Nah, I think Hamilton is just in a situation where he knows this season is a bit of a free hit. Like, I don't think anybody was actually expecting Lewis Hamilton to go into the Ferrari team and in his first year win races, win championships, beat Charles Leclerc, like do all of the insane things that he would need to do to, you know, be at the level we kind of expect. When Hamilton's winning over 100 races, putting pole position records to the sword, like, we expect big things from Lewis Hamilton almost every single year. But I don't think he had those expectations going into his first season. And he's talked quite a lot about getting used to Ferrari behind the scenes and adjusting how the team is set up and trying to change the ethos of himself, but also the ethos of Ferrari, and finding that middle ground between the two. So I think when it comes to Hamilton, it's all about next year. So again, it's kind of one of those years where it's like, he's probably just sort of got to a point where he's like, let's focus on 2026. Don't blame Hamilton for Ferrari cock-ups. Also that, yeah. Ferrari do also find a way to ruin good things quite a lot of the time, to be fair. Williams are going to be best in the midfield today. But we said that in Monza. We said that in Monza, and it just didn't quite happen when it came to qualifying in Monza. Like, this is going to be very tight, I think. You know, qualifyings this year have been insanely tight anyway. And the difference between making it through to Q3 and dropping out on Q1 is sometimes like 1/10 of a second or less. So I think this is going to be super close once again. And actually, there might even be a little bit of luck involved in kind of when you come out. If you get a little bit of a toe from somebody in front, and if you get your positioning just right as you come out of the right part of qualifying. So we will get underway with qualifying in a second. Actually, that half an hour has disappeared. We didn't do predictions, we didn't look at the Drivers' Championship, kind of just waffled on, but there we are. We'll get to those tomorrow as well. Thank you everybody for joining us though. If you could hit the like button if you're on YouTube, or the follow button if you're over on Twitch, that'd be absolutely amazing. Where does Hamilton stand in today's predictions? He was setting good laps. I think a top 5 is a good qualifying session for kind of, you know, that's where we expect Norris, Piastri, Verstappen, Russell, Hamilton, Leclerc. Like top 5, top 6 is good enough. And then you kind of look at the McLarens and you maybe go, they should really be looking at kind of the front row of the grid. Verstappen, Russell, Leclerc on a good day, also looking at that front row of the grid. What do you mean you don't get why you retired? I fully expected it to happen last season. Retiring from Formula 1, yeah, maybe. But retiring from all motorsport? No. I wanted something else from Daniel Ricciardo. I wanted to see him at least stretch his legs in a different series. Even if it was just for a year, just to like build up a little bit of hype for a different series. Like, I think he's got a big enough fan base that a team would have paid him quite a lot, and a team would have given him quite a lot of backing, whatever sport he would have chosen to go into. But maybe that's the thing. Maybe he didn't want to just artificially go into a team just because he's getting paid quite a lot of money. So maybe you could kind of see it as actually pretty decent. Did he release a statement? Yes. Although I don't know where it was. I think I read it like in an Autosport article or somewhere like that. But we are into qualifying, ladies and gentlemen. The driver radios coming through for us. No investigations or penalties at the moment. No track limits infringements. I'd be very surprised if we get a track limits infringement here in Baku. The walls are pretty damn close to the sides of the track. But we are back underway for Formula 1 racing once again. Q1 here in Baku. Let's line this up for myself. 17 minutes and 30 seconds on the clock. The Ferrari cars joining the queue in the pit lane. Everybody wanting to get out early. Nico Hülkenberg, oh no, sorry, Alex Albon, the first driver out onto the racetrack, followed by Nico Hülkenberg and Gabriel Bortoleto. Behrman and Ocon also making their way out in the Haas cars as well. Franco Colapinto, his Alpine, joining the sixth car out on the racetrack. Carlos Sainz, Isaac Hadjar out behind them. Pierre Gasly just making his way to the end of the pit lane. And a real queue of cars beginning to form inside of the pit lane. Oscar Piastri's car without its front wing at the moment. The McLaren team just holding off on that. Some slight adjustments being made to the current World Championship leader's car just before he goes out for this first lap in qualifying. Alonso and Stroll also make their way to the end of the pit lane. Only a couple of turns where you can actually get track limits. Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, I'd be very surprised. Turn 16, maybe? If they went a little bit wide out of turn 16, you could possibly get a track limits infringement. Struggling to see where else you might get one, to be honest. Because everywhere else, if you went too wide, you're just down an escape road. You're like, that's not really a track limits infringement as much as a bail out of that lap now because it's all over and done with. As Alex Albon gets us underway then with some flying laps here in Baku. Let's keep an eye on the Williams' sector times. Albon, those 90-degree turns. Turn 1, turn 2, turn 3. I do love the boxy nature of the first sector here in Azerbaijan. Literally 4 90-degree corners. I know that it is a city track and you don't really have much leeway in where you can build the racetrack, but I just find it funny that they are all almost perfectly square, those corners. Alex Albon making his way through turn 5 and turn 6, completes the first sector, and then is beaten by Nico Hülkenberg through the first sector anyway. Hülkenberg finding a 10th of a second on the Williams car already. I suppose Alex Albon being the first man out on track, no toe down that back straight. Nico Hülkenberg would have got that advantage. Gabriel Bortoleto behind him as well. A little bit of traffic to contend with for the two Stake Sauber cars as they're weaving their way through the Ferraris. But again, we're keeping our eyes on Alex Albon. Ollie Behrman has just gone through the first sector and set the fastest first sector time so far at 36.4 from the Briton. Alex Albon sets the standard at a 41.7 through the middle part of the lap. Alex Albon now, rear wing open all the way down that back straight. Gets to the DRS zone and he will go across the start-finish line to set a 1:43.778. Although, not an amazing middle sector from Alex Albon, has to be said. Oh, sorry, final sector from Alex Albon as Nico Hülkenberg goes a 10th faster in that final sector. Bortoleto then quicker again, but Ollie Behrman, the first driver to go quicker than Alex Albon. So it's Behrman, Albon, Bortoleto, Hülkenberg in that order. Oh, and Nico Hülkenberg did make a little mistake, almost lost that Stake Sauber car into the wall. But a little brush with the barriers to start off this qualifying session for the German driver. Ollie Behrman still quickest then as Esteban Ocon goes a 10th of a second slower, but Carlos Sainz then comes to take provisional pole as a lot of the midfield drivers now ticking off their time sheets. Isaac Hadjar goes to 3rd place. Nico Hülkenberg down in that bottom flag. There's a yellow flag. Nope, there's now a green flag. Possibly someone going a little bit slower than expected. Charles Leclerc goes quickest of anybody through the first sector. The Ferrari coming to life. The Monegasque driver outdoing his teammate though, just about. Leclerc in front of Lewis Hamilton. So Leclerc will come across the line first. Charles Leclerc just coming around towards the final sector, down the hill at turn 15 through to turn 16. He's 7/10 of a second above Liam Lawson's lap time of 1:42.44. 448, sorry, from Liam Lawson. Charles Leclerc, though, quickest of anybody in the first and second sectors. Lewis Hamilton just a little bit off. Lando Norris also slower than Charles Leclerc through the middle part of the lap. The Ferrari coming to life all of a sudden, bottoming out as they reach that top speed, and Charles Leclerc comes across the line for a 1:41.9. Lewis Hamilton 7.5 tenths of a second slower than his teammate. Also slots in behind Lawson and Sainz to only go fourth fastest. Lando Norris nearly 4.5 tenths off Charles Leclerc as well. Gets himself up into second, but Charles Leclerc on a different planet right now. I know Lando Norris was on the medium compound tyre, but still 4.5 tenths of a second between the two. Max Verstappen has gone quickest of anybody through the middle sector. There's a yellow flag being waved. Track hazard. Alex Albon seems to have stopped between turn 1 and turn 2. Max Verstappen is going to be able to finish that lap to go second fastest of anybody by 2.5 tenths, but Alex Albon has now caused a red flag. The Williams car stationary between turn 1 and turn 2. And there is Alex Albon, and that looks like it's going to be the end of his afternoon, unfortunately. Does have a little bit of a... Oh, he's maybe kissed the inside wall. Actually, looking at that front left tyre on Alex Albon's car, that looks like it is a little bit worse for wear. Let's look at the onboard of the Williams car. Yeah, he does indeed. Just catches the front left tyre on the inside of turn 1, misjudges it by an inch or two, and that is the front left tyre dislodged on that Williams car, and he is going to be out of qualifying. Let's see where Alex Albon's lap time was. He was only 15th fastest and isn't going to improve, so is undoubtedly going to fall out of qualifying. And Baku has claimed its first victim in qualifying then. Alex Albon's Williams car still on the circuit as the rest of the cars make their way back around under red flag conditions. Yuki Tsunoda just coming into the pits now. It was Piastri and Antonelli who missed out most then, because Piastri and Antonelli on their flying laps, they didn't manage to get that banker lap in. So they're going to need to go out for certain once more. Bortoletto, Colapinto and Hulkenberg, the three slowest drivers of the cars to have completed laps thus far. Charles Leclerc, the quickest man out on track with a 1:41.9, the only driver into the 1:41s. Verstappen second fastest, Lando Norris third fastest, but the Red Bull and the McLaren both on medium compound tyres. Alex Albon then. That is frustrating for the Williams team. And just waiting for the last few cars to come around. Esteban Ocon on the radio. Got a branch on my rear right corner. It all goes on in Baku, doesn't it? Branches, lizards. There's just a lot going on throughout the Baku Grand Prix circuit. Behrman and Ocon have made their way back into the pits. Max Verstappen was the final car out on track as he completed his lap just seconds before the red flag was dropped. And we have got everybody back into the pit lane. The green flag then is going to be waved very, very soon. In fact, I think the track now completely clear with Alex Albon's car. And everybody back into the pits, so we should be underway for qualifying once again in a moment's time. I'll take this opportunity whilst the yellow flags are still waving a touch to promote the brand new podcast. It's me, Mr. V, Mr. Pulse, Dan No Skill, Formula Duck, the five of us working together. It's the first link in the description. We're trying to get monetized over on that channel. We've absolutely smashed through the 2,000 subscribers that we need. But if you haven't seen this week's episode yet, just pop this week's episode on. Trying to get enough watch hours to get monetized over on that channel. Going to be honest with you. I'm an honest man. That is what we're trying to do. And we want to try and get monetized within the first month of the channel going live. There are 3 podcasts over on there. You watch all 3, that would give us 3 hours plus of watch time. So that's all I'm saying. If you haven't seen it so far, maybe you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, give it a go. Watch all 3 of the episodes, see what you think, and then maybe if it's for you, hit that subscribe button and join the Crash Happy podcast. Alex Albon's car then is indeed being wheeled away. The weather is still looking clear. It's still grey though. It does just give me a vibe like it might rain. It's still very grey. There you go. The podcasts are great. Podcast episode was chaotic. It's a little bit chaotic. I think when it's all 5 of us, we get a little bit giddy. When I'm recording with those guys, it does just feel like, I don't know, like I've known a few of them for maybe a couple of years now. We've had some times together, but I feel like it's a very tight bunch, to be honest. Dan, fire and water skills, exactly. If you want to know what happened to Dan in Italy, you certainly need to watch it. Gonna watch it after qualifying. Thank you so much. It's going to snow in Baku. Not so much snow, but we were expecting rain during qualifying, not necessarily during the race this weekend, but you never know when it comes to Formula One. It's very unpredictable. The weather just comes and goes when it pleases, doesn't it? I'm sure it will happen at the least opportune moment for somebody. It'll probably be Piastri or Norris. One of them will get caught out in the rain. And then Zach Brown will have to get the sprinklers out for the other one to make sure that it's fair. Max Verstappen then inside of the Red Bull car. The visor comes down and the Red Bull car back onto its 4 wheels in the garage as the rest of the cars also start battling for position in the pit lane. We are going to get underway in 2 minutes' time. And already then we're seeing cars coming out into the pits and queuing up to be the first driver out on track. I think particularly for Piastri and Antonelli, they need to get out there sooner rather than later. Bortoleto, Colapinto, Hulkenberg as well, of course. But those 2 down the bottom there, the fact they weren't able to get a banker lap in, it's going to need to happen sooner rather than later, because another red flag and then you're in the real problem of, okay, am I actually going to get a lap time in, or am I just going to get completely booted out of qualifying purely because of the luck of other drivers and the skill of other drivers not being able to complete full laps? Miracle Marcus, please give you a shout out. There you go, Miracle Marcus. What makes you a miracle? Just the miracle of life. What is Kimi Antonelli getting invested? Okay. Oh, I didn't even see that pop up. That is a great question. Let's have a little look. A yellow flag infringement for Kimi Antonelli. Maybe didn't slow down quite enough once the yellow flags were waved. Possibly saw Alex Albon coming to a stop or going slowly, but didn't slow down enough. The Italian is indeed under investigation. Good spot. You have a YouTube channel. Ah, I see. Do highly recommend the podcast. Thank you so much, sir. I appreciate it. Hello from India. Hello from the UK. You hope Lando DNFs? I don't. As a McLaren fan, I really want to see both of the McLaren cars have a proper battle with one another. Ooh. Liam Lawson being wheeled back into the garage with 30 seconds left on the clock before we get back underway. That doesn't look good for Liam Lawson right now. Maybe they're just bailing out of it. The tyres, they don't want to leave, or he couldn't quite get into the queue, to be fair. They let out the RB car a little bit later than the rest, so he was just sort of at the side of the queue, not quite actually in the pit lane. So maybe they were just like, well, you can't get into the queue. Let's wheel you back in, put the tyres in the tyre blankets for a little bit, at least optimize that a touch more. And then, yes, you'll be at the back of this queue, but maybe you'll have a little bit better tyres than the rest. What's up with Piastri? Nothing too much. He just didn't manage to get a lap in before the red flags dropped. I think he was coming around the final sector. You can see he set a first sector and a second sector time. A 35.9 in the first sector, which is a couple of times slower than Charles Leclerc's best, to be fair. And a 41.3 in the middle sector. Also sort of 0.3 of a second down on Verstappen. It wasn't a ridiculous lap time from Oscar Piastri, but certainly would have been enough to put him up into the top 10 and safer than 20th place or 19th place that he is right now. And same with Kimi Antonelli. I think he was coming around the first part of the lap when Albon came to a stop, had to slow down. Whether he slowed down enough is what he's now being investigated for. But Alex Albon's crash causing that red flag means we're now waiting for the fast laps to begin again. At least we've got cars out on the circuit. Pierre Gasly, the first driver in the queue, has just gone around turn 6. So we will get some fast laps once again. That's the yellow flag infringement from Kimi Antonelli then. Alex Albon on the left-hand side. And Antonelli being told over the radio. They say double waved yellow. Kimi Antonelli saying that he didn't see it, but then did back out of the lap. So see how the stewards look at that. It was a green light when Kimi Antonelli went past it on the right-hand side, but it's just whether or not the double waved yellows came up on his dashboard. Then he can't really argue that he didn't see it because it's literally in front of his face. So I think they could be quite strict on Kimi Antonelli there. If he gets a penalty as well, that could cause a real headache for him this weekend. Hamilton is leaving Ferrari for sure. I don't think so. I think he's on like $100 million contract a year. I think he'll be all right. I think he'll stick it out. Now, that's just his base salary. I'd imagine there's some other bits and pieces on top of that as well. But yeah, Albon clipped the wall at turn 1. Oh, there you go. Sarah's literally said it. Albon clipped the wall at turn 1. Piastri and Antonelli fast laps didn't manage to get completed. Talking of, Kimi Antonelli is just coming down the start-finish straight. We've got 8 minutes and 50 seconds on the clock then in this first qualifying session. The red flag delaying it, but some fast laps are about to come our way. Pierre Gasly is just the first driver to complete the first sector under flying conditions once again. It was a 36.1 from Pierre Gasly. Alonso following on behind as well. Lance Stroll is also on a flying lap behind. But that is going to be investigated after the fact then. The stewards on Kimi Antonelli, after the session has completed, they will take a little look at Kimi Antonelli's delta, I'd imagine, and see whether or not he should have slowed down a little bit earlier. Here we go then. Kimi Antonelli dealing with a little bit of traffic as he comes through the castle section. Up the hill, right-hand turn. Through turn 7 he goes. Oh, and a snap of oversteer for Kimi Antonelli as well. Coming around turn 13 and 14 now. Keeping an eye on Kimi Antonelli's timings. Pierre Gasly has just gone 11th fastest of anybody to try and move himself away from that bottom 5. Remember, it is Bortoleto, Colapinto and Hulkenberg that are down there at the moment. Oh, and Kimi Antonelli's gone wide at turn 16. There you go. There's our track limits infringement that we were talking about. He's gone a little bit too deep into turn 16. He's going to have to back out of that lap. Is he just going to duck straight into the pits, Kimi Antonelli, or is he going to go again straight off the bat? Maybe he's going to go again straight off the bat. Here comes Oscar Piastri then, the other driver yet to set a lap time. Yuki Tsunoda has just gone 3rd fastest of anybody on a slightly scrubbed set of medium tyres. That is a very, very swift lap from Yuki Tsunoda, just behind his teammate by a 10th of a second. Lewis Hamilton has also just gone quickest of anybody as there's now a yellow flag In the middle sector, it's Nico Hülkenberg. Looks to have come to a stop at turn 4. Oscar Piastri comes across the line to go second fastest of anybody. Max Verstappen has just gone quickest of anybody in the middle sector. And we get another red flag. This time, Nico Hülkenberg, I feel like, is the driver who has come to a stop down at turn 4. No, he is reversing back onto the track. And I think the steward's maybe a little bit too punchy on the button there, as Nico Hülkenberg has damaged the front of his Stakes Sauber car, the rear wing of his car, down the escape road at turn 4. But he has got that car moving once again. And you can see him coming through turn 5 and turn 6 right now. Here is the onboard from Nico Hülkenberg then. What happened here? All just went way too deep. Locked up, couldn't go left, couldn't go right, ended up just hitting the barrier straight in front of him. Then had to run over his own front wing to use the escape road to get his car back up and running again. But Nico Hülkenberg, sans front wing, making his way back to the pits, and everybody is going to have to go round once again. So Antonelli up into 12th, Piastri up into 2nd. I thought Antonelli went a little bit too wide at turn 16 for my liking, but maybe I was slightly wrong. So it is Ocon, Stroll, Albon. Albon is out for the count. Bortoleto and Hülkenberg down in the bottom 5 then. Hülkenberg is going to need a brand new front wing on that Stakes Sauber car. But another red flag indeed. Let's have a little look at this then. This is Kimi Antonelli going down towards turn 16. All 4 wheels off the racetrack. I thought that would be a no-go for Kimi Antonelli. And Antonelli, no brakes in the last corner. Tailwind gust there. So Antonelli getting unfortunate because of the wind. And that lap time, there you go, is deleted for Kimi Antonelli. Took them a little while to do so, but I was waiting for it, but it is now deleted. So Kimi Antonelli back down into 20th place and has it all to do with 6 minutes and 36 seconds to go. Lewis Hamilton has gone quickest of anybody from Oscar Piastri, 0.02 of a second slower than the Ferrari. Ferrari looking very swift indeed. I know Hamilton was very, very positive about the car on Friday and about the way that the team kind of adapted the way that they were thinking for that couple of Friday practice sessions that they had, and maybe it has just found something that works inside of that Ferrari car. Lewis Hamilton first, Charles Leclerc down in 3rd at the moment, the 2 Red Bulls in Verstappen and Tsunoda behind. Lando Norris actually the slowest of that 6, down in 6th place, and it's the 2 Mercedes cars that we often see up there in the mix, but George Russell and Kimi Antonelli away from the rest of the pack there. George Russell down in 9th place. Kimi Antonelli still yet to set a flying lap time that actually counts. First one, as soon as he was on that flying lap, we had the red flag from Alex Albon. Then his second flying lap was discounted due to a track limits infringement. And then Nico Hülkenberg also brought the session to a second red flag close. The red flags have stopped being waved, though, as all the cars are back into the pits. Yellow flags still being waved in that middle sector, or not quite middle sector, middle part of the lap, turn 3, turn 4, as they get rid of the carbon fiber debris from the Stakes Sauber car. Nico Hülkenberg has got a brand new front wing on. Gabriel Bortoleto has been noted for a yellow flag infringement, and so has Lance Stroll. So both of those cars, I imagine, will also be investigated similarly to Kimi Antonelli after this session has completed, but Stroll and Bortoleto both with yellow flag infringements, as Kimi Antonelli had before. 6 minutes, 36 seconds on the clock. As I say, Lewis Hamilton, quickest of the cars so far. Was on a set of soft compound tyres. Scrubbed set of soft compound tyres, though, Lewis Hamilton. Charles Leclerc the same, a scrubbed set of softs. Piastri, Verstappen, Tsunoda, Norris, Lawson opting for the medium compound tyre. And they have brought the C6 tyre this weekend in Azerbaijan, which some of the teams really don't like. It is the brand new tyre compound, the super soft tyre compound that we have got. Pirelli have decided to bring it once again this weekend, and maybe that's why we're seeing a lot of the cars opting for the medium tyre. It's a tyre that they know. It's a tyre that they use a lot more often than the C6, and the C5 is normally what we have as the soft compound tyre. So the drivers may be a little bit more comfortable on that medium tyre. Does then realise, you know, maybe tomorrow when we get to the race, what are they going to have to use? Do they have enough sets of medium tyres to do that? Because they don't really want to use the soft tyre during the Grand Prix, unless they're going for a very tight two-stop strategy. Of course, the hard compound tyre likely to be used in the Grand Prix tomorrow as well. And Toto Wolff on the radio to Kimi Antonelli, just reassuring his young driver not to panic too much. He's got a lot of time, says Toto Wolff. 6.5 minutes. Just make sure you get a lap in. Doesn't need to be the most heroic lap of your Formula One career so far. Just needs to get you out of that bottom 5. Softer tyres create better strategies? Oh yeah, most certainly. That is what they are gambling on at Pirelli, isn't it? They're going for the, okay, if we bring the super soft tyre, maybe a few of the teams will mix it up a touch when it comes to strategy. And also maybe we'll actually see a race where the two-stop strategy is the better strategy, because we keep getting told this race will be a two-stop, that race will be a two-stop, and then we end up actually seeing that the majority of cars can do almost the entire Grand Prix on one set of tyres. So it doesn't need to be a two-stop at all. It could be a no-stop and actually be the quicker of the strategies that we've got. Max Verstappen then, looking at the timing sheets, preparing himself, was racing last weekend, Max Verstappen, even though there was no Formula One. Just cannot keep him out of a race car, Max Verstappen. But he's back here in Baku to try and get back-to-back victories for the first time this season. What just happened? Nico Hülkenberg crashed at turn 4 and lost the front wing of his Stake Sauber car, and therefore we are waiting, watching, and hoping that we are going to get back underway very, very soon. Should get back underway right now, really, by what the stewards have said. Q1 will resume at 4:28 local time. I make it 28 minutes past the hour right now. But we are just waiting for the stewards to give that full green light at the end of the pit lane. And it's going to be Carlos Sainz, the first driver, out on track. Here we go. Carlos Sainz is indeed released. And we're up. Can you summarize what happened? So far, we've had 2 red flags. Alex Albon breaking the front left tyre of his Williams car with 11 minutes on the clock, caused a red flag there. Piastri and Antonelli under a bit of pressure because they hadn't set a fast lap time. And then a second red flag with 6 minutes and 36 seconds on the clock, thanks to Nico Hülkenberg bumping his Stake Sauber car into the outside of turn 4. He did manage to continue at least, where Alex Albon did not. Nico Hülkenberg is out on track once again. But we've still got 6.5 minutes to go, so it's still anybody's game at the moment. Lance Stroll, Gabriel Bortoleto, Nico Hülkenberg and Kimi Antonelli need to improve their lap times. Alex Albon cannot improve his lap time. His Williams car by the side of the track and the Williams driver back in the garage without his car. Everybody going out once again, knowing that the track is evolving, knowing that you just don't really want to risk it, and also getting yourself back in the rhythm. The problem with these red flags for the drivers anyways, you have to sit inside of the cockpit, you're kind of waiting, you're not in that mindset. A lot of the drivers like the process of qualifying and the timing of it. when you then cut that timing a little bit and you jink it around a touch, they sort of get themselves out of the routine and get themselves out of where they normally would be at that point in the session, which can sometimes affect their performance. But let's see how we go then. Ollie Bearman weaving down the straight as he starts his flying lap. Clearly needs some more temperature inside of those tyres and doesn't feel like they're going to be able to deliver the lap time that he really wants right now. He's 12th fastest at the moment, Ollie Bearman, so you wouldn't say entirely safe there, especially with Stroll, Bortoletto, Hulkenberg, Antonelli behind. Gasly, Hadjar and Ocon are just through at the moment, but all can change in the final 4 minutes of the session as Gabriel Bortoletto also makes his way past, but doesn't look like a push lap for Gabriel Bortoletto either. So maybe another warm-up lap instead of the Sake Sauber car for the Brazilian. Nico Hulkenberg is back out on track, by the way, is just coming around turn 5, actually behind Oscar Piastri, the German driver. But we're able to get it back to the pits and get a new front wing onto that Sake Sauber car. 3.5 minutes to go then, and Kimi Antonelli needs a lap time. He is absolutely pushing it, dancing out of turn 2, the car squirming around on the exit, getting down to turn 3, left-hand corner, precise, as close as you can to the wall, then get to the left-hand side of the track, ready for turn 4. That's where Nico Hulkenberg hit the wall before, but Antonelli is through it cleanly and gets through the first sector. He's 5.5 tenths up on Esteban Ocon's 15th place time right now. Antonelli just needs a time on the board. Doesn't need to be anything too fancy. Something that will get him up into the top 15 drivers and make sure that he gets through into Q2. He's got 2 minutes and 40 seconds still to run around. Kimi Antonelli coming around turn 13 now as Lando Norris has just gone quickest of anybody through the first sector. Displaced that is Max Verstappen, who goes even quicker than Lando Norris through that first part of the lap. Oh, Max Verstappen goes very quickly again. Antonelli having to deal with a little bit of traffic, but the traffic did indeed get out of the way of the Italian. The Mercedes car enters the final part of the lap. Just keep your foot to the floor, Kimi. All you got to do in a straight line now and get yourself up. As George Russell, his teammate, goes to the top of the timing screens with a 141.6. Where's Kimi Antonelli compared to it? It's 6th fastest. He's 6 tenths of a second off of his teammate, but at least it's a lap time on the board for the young Italian driver. Charles Leclerc then goes even quicker than George Russell, the Ferrari coming to life on those soft compound tyres. George Russell was on a scrubbed set of mediums. Lando Norris a little bit slower through the middle part of the lap, but goes quicker than Charles Leclerc, 141.3. And the lap times are continuing to tumble as Max Verstappen now coming down the back straight across the start-finish line is 9 thousandths of a second slower than Lando Norris. So Verstappen, Leclerc, Russell, Lando Norris all really up there with one another. Isaac Hadjar now right on the bubble though. Hello Kelly, how's it going? Isaac Hadjar in 15th place. Ocon, Stroll, Bortoletto, Hulkenberg behind. Here comes Ollie Bearman. Stays 11th fastest. He loves being 11th, does Ollie Bearman. Esteban Ocon, he's 16th fastest at the moment. His teammate just coming down the start-finish line. Isaac Hadjar doesn't do enough, and Hadjar has dropped down into the bottom 5. That could be the end of qualifying for Isaac Hadjar if he doesn't improve. He's coming around the final stint, the final sector now. Come on, Isaac. Down in 16th place, now 17th as Nico Hulkenberg comes across the line to go 13th fastest of anybody. Little bit of a tow. Here comes Isaac Hadjar, 5th fastest. Breathes a sigh of relief inside of that RB car. Puts Esteban Ocon down into the bottom 5. The yellow flags are waved once again. And it looks like Ollie Bearman possibly going slowly inside of the Haas car. But Lance Stroll is going to come across the line to go 8th fastest. Fernando Alonso down in 17th at the moment is going to come across the line to go 9th fastest. And the Spaniard, surely that will be enough to get him through. And it is Pierre Gasly who brings out the red flags. And Colapinto then loses out because of it. That is a red flag as the clock hits 0. So that is going to lock in our bottom 5. It is Colapinto, Hulkenberg, Ocon and Gasly, the 4 drivers who join Alex Albon. Albon, of course, out of qualifying fairly early on due to that collision with the wall at turn 1. Let's have a little look at Pierre Gasly. I thought it was Behrman that had gone off, but it was actually Pierre Gasly who'd made a mistake going down to turn 3. Looks all foul and then gets big slide out of turn 3, and then turn 4 just couldn't stop the car in time to actually turn right through that 4th corner. Oh, and then there's a big hit from Franco Colapinto as well. And Colapinto also, so both of the Alpine cars then come to a stop, and you can see Gasly in the distance, and Colapinto maybe wanted to go down that escape road where Pierre Gasly was. Colapinto had to commit and turn right, and then Colapinto hits the wall as well. So both of the Alpines had an absolute disaster at the end there. And Flavio Briatore looks on. Both of the Alpine cars out of qualifying. Both of the Alpine cars in pieces. Colapinto a lot bigger a shunt. Pierre Gasly, oh no, Pierre Gasly has managed to get his car back moving again. Down the escape road he went. I thought he was wedged in the escape road, but has managed to spin that Alpine car around. Doesn't mean much though. He's going to get it back to the pit lane, but he's still going to be down in 19th place, and he's still going to be out of qualifying. So both of the Alpine cars there causing just chaos for each other. It was Gasly going wide at turn 3, or like nearly losing the car at turn 3, that then made him all out of position for turn 4, had to use the escape road there. Then Franco Colapinto, I think, wanted to do the same thing, to be honest. You could see Pierre Gasly down the escape road from the onboard with Franco Colapinto. Colapinto getting all out of shape and then just slaps into the outside of turn 4. The barriers collecting the left-hand side of that Alpine car. And the second driver to collide with a barrier and not be able to make it back to the pit lane. Alex Albon and Franco Colapinto both been collected by the Baku barriers. Nico Hulkenberg almost collected, but managed to just about make it back around. Got a new front wing on that car, only to qualify 17th. Anyway, so that is our top 15 then. Norris, Verstappen, Leclerc, Russell, Hadjar, our top 5. Hamilton, Piastri, Stroll, Alonso and Antonelli inside of the top 10. Lawson, Tsunoda, Bortoleto, Sainz and Behrman, the drivers just about making it through into Q2, but they will need to improve if they want to make it through to Q3. Colapinto, Hulkenberg, Ocon, Gasly and Albon are the 5 drivers that we won't see out on track again this afternoon. And some repairs needed down at Alpine and Williams for Colapinto and Albon. Gasly also out. Where was Carlos Sainz? Carlos Sainz 14th fastest inside of that Williams car. So disappointing that we didn't really get to see what Alex Albon could do as his teammate makes it through into Q2. And to be honest with you, it's all exciting at the front as well. We had Norris quickest, Verstappen quickest, Leclerc quickest, Russell quickest, Hamilton quickest at various points throughout those first 18 minutes. Well, in between the 3 red flags that we had throughout that session as well. But we saw a lot of drivers up there and a lot of drivers in contention for pole position once we get through to Q3. We are just waiting, though, for everything to get set up once again. They've got to move Colapinto's car off the racing line. And we'll get back underway once again. As I say, Lawson, Tsunoda, Bortoleto, Sainz and Behrman, the drivers that need to improve. Why is Colapinto darkened out? Because Colapinto smashed into the wall and has broken his car. Usually during the races it would black out to show that it's a DNF. In this case, don't worry, Hulkenberg, Ocon, Gasly, Albon will also get blacked out in a moment because they are out of the session. I suppose you could say just Colapinto and Albon are like double out. Not only are they not quick enough to get through, they also have put their cars into the barriers and are no longer in working condition. What are the chances that Norris leads every lap tomorrow if he gets pole today? I mean, we saw in Monza, though, the battle for first, second, third, and fourth is very tight. And especially because, okay, the run down in towards turn 1 here at Baku isn't too far. But once you get to the end of the first lap, and you've got the driver behind you, sort of through turn 15 and turn 16, then gets that run all the way down, basically the final sector of the track, then down in towards turn 1. I don't think it's going to be as easy to just qualify on pole and then definitely hold on to first place throughout those first few laps of the Grand Prix. And then it goes into what kind of strategies are available to the cars. The fact that we've brought the C6 tyre, or the Pirelli have brought the C6 tyre, does that mean we're actually going to see some two-stop strategies from people? We'll have to wait and see. You know, we've said it throughout a few races this year. You know, we've gone, oh, the two-stop strategy seems optimal. Then everybody's gone for one stop. So let's hope that the two-stop strategy is actually the optimal strategy this time around. Papaya Rules Alpine Edition, where both of them just take each other out of the race through various different means. I mean, to be fair, Gasly was already out because he'd messed up his final lap. And then Colapinto, the only reason... well, again, he shouldn't really hit into the barriers at that speed, but he was also going to be out because he was trying to take to the escape road. I think saw Pierre Gasly down the escape road and decided that he had to just commit to the right-hand corner at turn 4 and instead just hit the barriers. Bit tight between Lando Norris and Max Verstappen. I think Charles Leclerc's in there as well, you know. I know it's a 10th and a half, but the Ferrari car is looking very swift indeed. We saw Leclerc top, we saw Hamilton top throughout that session. They are running on the soft compound tyre, where everybody else preferring the medium as well. So maybe Ferrari kind of playing a little bit of a strategy game and knowing that they can keep some fresher medium tyres for the race tomorrow if they use the soft compound tyres now, or maybe going the other way and they're using the soft compound tyres so they can hold on to some medium tyres for the final part of qualifying. I think there's certainly some strategic decisions yet to play out that we haven't seen at Ferrari or Mercedes or McLaren or Red Bull that could cause any one of their drivers to be on that top spot come the start of tomorrow's Grand Prix. I feel like the top 6 is going to be very, very tight indeed. Do I think Lando can win the Grand Prix with a Grand Slam like Singapore 2024? Ooh. Fastest lap's going to be tough, though, especially if the strategy is how we kind of expect it to play out. Feel like, you know, being at the front, I just feel like there's going to be some DRS action towards the end of the race possibly, and some drivers going very, very quickly indeed. So maybe the fastest lap is a little bit out of his realm, because he's not going to have any toe down the back straight where the drivers behind him might do if he's leading the Grand Prix. Leclerc, he loves Baku in qualifying. That's very true. And only in qualifying. Yeah, he does. I mean, Leclerc loves qualifying in general, right? What's he got? 27 pole positions, 28 pole positions, something like that for Charles Leclerc. And then less than 10 victories in Formula One. He's got a lot more pole position tyres back home than he has race-winning trophies for Ferrari. That has to be said. But Charles Leclerc is definitely in the mix. You can never really count out Charles Leclerc when it comes to qualifying, specifically in those tracks that, as you say, he does shine in. Max will get pole. See, this is what I mean. There's a little bit of a discussion around it. Will it be Norris? Will it be Verstappen? Will it be Leclerc? Nobody talking about Oscar Piastri either. I know he's 0.5 of a second down there, but he kind of just needed to get a lap time in, particularly because he missed out before the first flying lap. Yeah, 27 poles, 8 wins, exactly. So, loves a pole position to Charles Leclerc, but Ferrari's race pace not quite where we'd expect it to be. Of course, missed out on winning last year here in Baku after that incredible overtake from Oscar Piastri. Just sent it up the inside at turn 1. The McLaren making the move and Piastri then going on to win the Grand Prix from there. Carlos Sainz being wiped out by Sergio Perez at the end. Also a pretty spectacular end to the Grand Prix last year. Carlando is being supported out in the grandstands, a McLaren hat and a Williams hat. Here we are then. The barriers have been put back together again, thanks to Franco Colapinto. A little bit of a delay to the start of Q2, but we have got a Q2 starting time of 4:48 local time. So that is a couple of minutes from where we are now. Anthony Davidson looking at a little investigation. Nico Hülkenberg on a cool down lap, just moving out of the way of the racing bull. There's a yellow light being shown. Double waved yellows being shown on the left hand side of the track. Don't really know what they're pointing at here, but can see the yellows, the double waved yellows. Oh, I see. They may be looking at the fact that where the yellow flags are kind of being shown and who the yellow flags are being shown to. Who crashed? I mean, who crashed when? Albon crashed. Hülkenberg crashed. Colapinto crashed. All three of which are now out of qualifying. So maybe nobody else will get collected. Oh, yeah, you can see. No yellow flags being waved. How many raw red flags do you think? I mean, we've had 3. I don't know how many. What's the record for qualifying, do you think? What's the record for the number of red flags in qualifying? Because 3 is already pushing it. I don't know if we'll get that many more. Like, I'd be impressed. Hoping that the 15 drivers that we've got left can keep it between the right lines. As I say, Colapinto, Hülkenberg and Albon are the 3 drivers that have caused red flags so far, and all 3 of them are now out. So maybe we've kind of gotten rid of the drivers that can't do a lap time inside of the white lines. 5 at least. Woo. Should we have like an over-under? Over-under on 4.5 red flags. So do you think there's going to be another one? Like, there could be another one just to be fine. Do you think there'll be another 2 or more red flags? Should we have a little poll on it? There you go. I've put a poll up. Do you think there'll be at least 2 more red flags in the final 2 parts of qualifying? Under 4.5, over 4.5. We've had 3 so far. Over 4.5 red flags is winning in the poll so far. People expecting some red flags to be a flying in the final 2 parts of qualifying. It's insane that we've only done 1 part of qualifying, to be fair. 1 part of qualifying ticked out. We've only lost 5 drivers so far. We are at least back underway, and Max Verstappen. No, sorry, Carlos Sainz is the first driver out there. And Isaac Hadjar has gone down the runoff area at turn 4. Turn 4 is causing a lot of chaos today. It's where Hülkenberg and Colapinto crashed into the barriers. It's where Pierre Gasly went down the escape road. And now Isaac Hadjar also down the escape road as well, as Lewis Hamilton makes his way past the Frenchman. And the green flags are finally waved. But Isaac Hadjar, let's have a little look at it. Comes through turn 3. Doesn't seem to be too out of shape. Peels to the left-hand side of the track to turn 4 and just doesn't stop in time. Just nowhere close to stopping in time for turn 4 there, Azerbaijan. Down the escape road he goes, just continues on in effectively a straight line. Didn't even try and turn for turn 4, really. But here we are then. Carlos Sainz, no yellow flags are being waved. The track is clear. We're back under. 13 minutes to go. And Carlos Sainz is underway. What happened to Alex Albon? He clipped the inside of the turn 1 barrier. With 11 minutes left to go, or just over 11 minutes left to go in Q1. So broke his front left tyre, and that was his afternoon done and dusted with. Alonso going to bring out the yellows, I think. Why is everyone thinking Alonso is going to smash into the barriers? Antonelli will put it in the barrier, putting $200 on it. I mean, a lot of people, 65% of people, think that there is going to be over 4.5 red flags. There's going to be at least 2 more, and Ollie Behrman is going slowly. Has Ollie Behrman touched the wall at turn 2? Ollie Behrman has touched the wall at turn 2, I think, and it's come to a stop. Are we going to see another red flag? It's a yellow flag in that first sector for where Ollie Behrman is. And a red flag. Stop the clock, indeed. Red flag number 4 is a waving. Here we go. We had 116 votes. 65% of people thought there would be over 4.5 red flags. There has now been 4. So we need 1 more red flag for you guys to be correct. But it is another red flag, and it is Ollie Behrman this time. Nobody able to set a fast lap before the red flag was waved. 11 minutes and 54 seconds on the clock. We were just about to get underway with some flying laps, weren't we? Carlos Sainz was doing his best. He was at the front of the pack. He'd done a 35.8 through the first sector. But 4 red flags now here in Baku. And I'd blame the rookies, but it's actually been a 50-50 between the rookies and experienced drivers. It's not just been Albon and it's not just been Behrman and Colapinto. We've also had Hulkenberg and Albon in the wall, so you can't really blame it on inexperience with those two, can you? How can there be half a red flag? There can't be half a red flag, but it's sort of 4 or 5 is how betting sponsors do it. Because there can't be 4.5, you like under 4.5 is 4 or below, and then over 4.5 is like 5 and above. But there we are. We have got another red flag. Carlos Sainz has made it back to the pits. Charles Leclerc, Lewis Hamilton, Isaac Hadjar, Max Verstappen, Yuki Tsunoda still out on the racetrack. So we've got to wait for them to get back into the pit lane. Ollie Behrman's car, luckily, is the other side. So they are already moving Ollie Behrman's car off of the racetrack. But it's in a bit of an awkward position. It's kind of where Carlos Sainz and Sergio Perez came to blows last year. Just outside of turn 2, down towards turn 3, Ollie Behrman came to a stop on the left-hand side of the track. So going to need a little bit of a crane or something to lift that Haas car off of the circuit. Means Ollie Behrman is pretty much destined to start in 15th place unless we get no more flying laps inside of these 11 minutes and 54 seconds, because we could just have another red flag. Why not? Is Kelly playing rock, paper, scissors with somebody? Just throwing out scissors, Kelly. I'll go rock. That's 1-0 me. Good afternoon from Germany. When will be the next episode of the Crash Happy podcast? We're trying to make it weekly at an absolute minimum. So there will be certainly 1 episode per week. But we have also started recording some extra bits and pieces for that channel as well. So lots more to come. I'm also getting back into the routine of doing my own content as well. Been a little bit of a chaotic couple of weeks. Just trying to get that sorted and started. My new job sorted and started. So apologies there hasn't been too much content on this channel. But as I say, there have been podcasts over there. There's more podcasts to come and more stuff to come as well. Am I a Man City fan? This is not a Man City shirt in any sense. It's kind of that sky blue colour. Man City don't wear stripes though. I'd be impressed if anybody can tell what this is, unless it says on the badge. You can probably tell. If I cover the top of the badge, you can't tell. It's a niche one though. It's a niche football shirt. Oh, you get a half red flag with scissors. Got you. Would you cut it horizontally or would you cut it vertically? I feel like half a red flag. You'd want to cut it vertically, right? I am a Liverpool fan, but this is not a Liverpool jersey. The sky blue is a bit of a niche one. I'd be very, very impressed if anybody gets it. Lazio, no. Real Sociedad, no. Soccer 8, no. It is a European team. It is somewhere I have been. Remember. If very, very old members of the channel, you remember that I used to have like a selection of football shirts on the wall from various places that I'd travelled to. Looks like Napoli's 98 home kit. Haven't been to Napoli. I got a Roma kit when I went to Italy because I went to Rome. So decided on the Roma rather than the Lazio side of things as well. Huddersfield does kind of look like a Huddersfield kit, yeah. Strasbourg, Budapest. Oh yeah, I actually didn't get a football jersey when I went to Budapest. I think because I was there to watch Formula 1. Felt like a slightly different vibe. Whereas like when I went to like Amsterdam, I got an Ajax shirt and I went to like the Ajax stadium and I watched a training session. Didn't actually get to watch a game, but Strasbourg, San Marino. Lots of really good shouts, but no one's got it yet. I'm impressed. I'm impressed. San Marino. It's not a national team. It is a team. Dave's FC. Riley's just given up. He's I don't know. I think they're not in the Champions League, but they certainly were in the Champions League qualifying rounds. So it's a smaller team, a smaller nation. Country would give it away. Country would give it away. Because it's a very, very big city within said country. Q2 will resume at 16:58, which is right now. Okay, we're going to be back underway with qualifying very, very soon. Paphos, no. Leeds, no. Leeds were not in the qualifying round for the Champions League. Kazakhstan team that beat Celtic? I wish, but no. Is it a Swiss club? No. American? No. Luxembourg? No. getting Moscow? No. Manchester City? No. Malmo is a good shout, but no. Vatican? No. Oh, someone got it. Someone got it. Alexander DRS. It is indeed Riga FC. It is Riga. Latvian team. My girlfriend's parents are from Latvia. So I went to Riga for a week. It is indeed Riga FC. I thought that was niche enough, though. Very well, niche enough that it took all of that red flag for us to be able to get it. But we are 11 minutes and 18 seconds to run. The cars are back on track. Should we talk Formula 1 once again? Brighton, Bayern, Sweden. What do I think of Man City, though? I mean, I'm not a fan, to be honest. As a Liverpool supporter, it does look very Argentinian. Yeah, I'll give you that. Here we are then. Should we get back onto Formula 1 as Charles Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton are making their way through the middle sector, just past the castle now. Gabriel Bortoleto going down towards turn 8. Carlos Sainz turn 7. Hadjar, Lawson, Stroll, Alonso, Norris and Piastri have also made their way onto the racetrack. Max Verstappen still in the Red Bull garage and without tyres even on his car. Max Verstappen just leaving it. Cannot be bothered with going out again. Max Verstappen, I think they're predicting another red flag. It's just going, nah, I've had enough. I'll wait until everybody else is out to go, and I want the track all to myself. Charles Leclerc, though, might just about get a flying lap in. Here he comes, the Monegasque man. Pole position here in Azerbaijan before. Can he do it once again? He's got to get into the top 10 at least. Oh, and straight away, down towards turn 1, Charles Leclerc makes a mistake and goes into the runoff area. So it's not going to be a flying lap from Charles Leclerc. Maybe his teammate, Lewis Hamilton, will be the first man to set a flying lap. Here comes Lewis Hamilton. He made it around turn 1 and turn 2. Turn 3 and turn 4 is all Lewis Hamilton needs to get by, because it feels like turn 4 is the one that is causing everybody some issues today. Charles Leclerc not quite getting the braking right for turn 1. Gabriel Bortoleto also following on behind Lewis Hamilton. I think Hamilton has backed out of the lap as well, though. So Bortoleto, somebody has got to do a flying lap. Both of the Ferraris have backed out of their flying laps. They were at the front of the queue. Nobody wants to do a flying lap here in Q2. We've got 9 minutes left to go. We've had 6 minutes of the session, and not a flying lap has been done. Isaac Hadjar finally sets a proper first sector time. Hadjar with a 35.6 through the first sector. Carlos Sainz also sets a first sector time, but is not as quick as the RB car. Here we go then. It's a very good first sector from Isaac Hadjar. It's going to be difficult to beat even for some of the quicker cars that we expect to be up there. Carlos Sainz coming towards the downhill section, and a left-hand turn for Carlos Sainz. Quickest of anybody through the middle sector so far, of course. And Lando Norris was quickest of anybody through the middle sector, but has now been displaced by his teammate. Oscar Piastri is now quickest of anybody through the first sector. Oh my goodness me. We're about to see a flying lap time. Gabriel Bortoleto with a 1:43.2. Thank you, Gabriel. And then he gets immediately displaced by Carlos Sainz with a 1:41.6. Here comes Isaac Hadjar, 1:41.9. Lando Norris has just gone quickest in the middle sector. Oh no, he hasn't gone quickest in the middle sector, sorry. George Russell going very quickly as well. Oscar Piastri is still quickest of anybody through the first part of the lap. And the second sector time, quicker than Carlos Sainz still, Oscar Piastri. So it feels like the McLarens are going to jump to the top of the list here. Lando Norris 2.5 tenths quicker than Carlos Sainz. But can Oscar Piastri outdo his teammates? He is just coming down the final sector right now. But we have indeed finally got some lap times tumbling. And Oscar Piastri just 0.3 of a second off of his teammate. Yellow flag in the middle part of the lap. Who is it this time? It's a green flag being waved. Phew! Whoever it was, we are safe from for now. Verstappen, Leclerc, Antonelli, Tsunoda and Behrman breathing a sigh of relief as they still haven't set a lap time. Antonelli does do that. That puts Lewis Hamilton down into the bottom 5 then, as Hamilton 22 seconds off the pace when he finished his lap. Wasn't a flying lap really then, was it, Lewis? 8.5 tenths off Lando Norris, though, as Lewis Hamilton comes through the middle sector. Bit of a mix of old and new tyres. Lando Norris was on a scrubbed set of softs. Russell and Antonelli on new medium tyres. Piastri on some soft compound tyres from before. Sainz on the mediums. Lawson, Hadjar, Stroll, Bortoleto all on softs. Some scrubbed, some not, as Lewis Hamilton comes across the line and goes 8th fastest overall. Max Verstappen has just completed the first sector. It's making his way past the castle now. And that twisty turn 9, 10, 11 and 12. But he's managed to maneuver it very well indeed. Through turn 13 he comes, and Max Verstappen looking swift inside of that Red Bull car. Needs to get a lap time on the board before the red flags get waved once again. Does feel like everybody is on tender hooks, doesn't it? Everyone's just like, okay, need to get a lap time in, but want it to be actually competitive, but also just need to get across the start-finish line. Lando Norris moves out of the way of Max Verstappen as Verstappen then comes down the pit straight. He is indeed gonna open that DRS. Little wiggle from Max Verstappen, puts himself second fastest of anybody by 0.05 of a second. Oscar Piastri, let's have a little look at this. Oh, gets a little bit out of shape and does touch the wall, Oscar Piastri, at turn 15. He's done that a couple of times this weekend as Oscar Piastri. He's got away with it once again. It was a brush with the wall, a little bit of a bounce, but managed to bounce at just the right point so that the tyre was not displaced. And it was Charles Leclerc that caused that yellow flag. Charles Leclerc. Oh my goodness. Big lockup from Charles Leclerc. Smoke from both of the left-hand side tyres on Charles Leclerc's car. And Lewis Hamilton also got all out of shape at turn 16 as well. The Ferraris all of a sudden looking very unstable indeed. Charles Leclerc still without a flying lap time. And Lewis Hamilton's flying lap time's nothing really to write home about, to be honest, you know. A 1.5 seconds off the pace. You look at the gap between Tsunoda and Hamilton is 0.9 of a second. So 3 minutes 50 seconds to go. Both of the Ferraris, from being in the discussion for possible pole positions to now being in the discussion of can they actually make it through to Q3. The Mercedes cars have displaced the Ferraris inside of those top spots. Is Norris, Verstappen, Russell, Antonelli, Piastri are top 5 right now. Sainz, Lawson, Hadjar, Tsunoda and Hamilton just about through. As I say, Hamilton, 0.9 of a second difference between Hadjar and Hamilton. So a lot to improve for Lewis Hamilton, who is on a flying lap right now. It's a less than good first sector from Lewis Hamilton. He's slower than his previous first sector time, but that might just be because those tyres are a little bit older than they were before. Hamilton just needs a lap without a mistake, though, really. So does Charles Leclerc. Leclerc in his Ferrari going once again, but both of the Ferraris playing, as was said, a bit of a dangerous game here. If they can't get together a clean lap, they have got nowhere near enough time to get back in and put another set of tyres on those Ferraris, as Lewis Hamilton gets exceptionally close to the wall through turn 15, but gets through there nonetheless. Improves in the middle sector. He's still 6.5 off Lando Norris's lap time through sector 2, but is improving at least a little bit. Where was Tsunoda? Tsunoda 0.5 of a second slower than Lando Norris. This could be pretty tough for Lewis Hamilton. Needs something down this final sector. The straight line speed of Lewis Hamilton, and yeah, as I thought, he does not improve. Stays 10th fastest as Lewis Hamilton, and that could be Hamilton being removed from this session by his teammate. Here comes Charles Leclerc around the final sector. Leclerc just coming through turn 15 and around to turn 16. Now Leclerc has just gone quickest of anybody through that middle part of the lap, so he's certainly going to improve on Lewis Hamilton's lap time, and that will drop Lewis Hamilton into the bottom 5. And actually, before we even get there, Fernando Alonso improves and puts Lewis Hamilton down into that bottom 5. Hamilton in real trouble now. Charles Leclerc comes across the line, goes 4th fastest, much more like it from Charles Leclerc after 2 laps where he'd made mistakes. Yellow flags are being waved. It's Lance Stroll going slowly round turn 1. I think has got in the way of Carlos Sainz a little bit there. Charles Leclerc still not with the cleanest lap that I've ever seen, and brushes the wall as he goes round turn 2, I think. But he's through to Q3 right now. Lewis Hamilton is going slow right now. There's just a minute left on the clock, and Lewis Hamilton is only going around turn 7. Has he got enough fuel for another lap, though, is the thing. Hamilton has done a good few laps on those tyres now. I don't know. Let's see. Lewis Hamilton, this could be an interesting one for Lewis Hamilton as Oscar Piastri comes across the line to go second fastest and put the top 4 all within 600ths of a second of each other. Like, if that's not what we need to see before we go into the final battle for pole position, I don't know what is, because that is so tight between Norris, Piastri, Verstappen and Russell, and there's more time to come, surely. Gabriel Bortoleto also improving in his Stake Sauber car. He's now going to come across the start-finish line. Is he going to put Isaac Hadjar down into the bottom 5? No, he is not. Only goes 13th fastest. Ollie Behrman guaranteed to be down there, as Isaac Hadjar then improves anyway. And Hamilton's come into the pits, and Hamilton is going to be out. Hamilton doesn't have the tyres or the fuel to do another lap. We were debating it. Did we see the best from Lewis Hamilton? He's dropped down there, and so has Yuki Tsunoda, by the way. Tsunoda also down into the bottom 5. So it's Tsunoda and Hamilton both displaced. Liam Lawson comes across the line to go 7th fastest. Gabriel Bortoleto. Oh, Tsunoda is on a flying lap. Tsunoda is on a flying lap. I thought because he was coming around the final sector, I thought he'd already done it. Max Verstappen is also improving. The Red Bulls came out so late, I didn't even see them come out. Tsunoda and Verstappen both on flying laps. Tsunoda now coming down the pit straight. Can he get himself into the top 10? Just. It is just from Yuki Tsunoda. He goes 10th fastest and puts Fernando Alonso out. And then Max Verstappen, just as a little bit of a flex of the Red Bull car's pace, goes to the top of the timing sheets to end the session. So Yuki Tsunoda did indeed just sneak his nose through a 10th of a second quicker than Fernando Alonso. Alonso will start 11th. Hamilton will start 12th. Bortoleto and Stroll, the other 2 drivers that weren't good enough. And of course, Ollie Behrman putting himself in the barriers. Caught the outside of turn 2, had to come to a stop just before turn 3, right at the beginning of the session, causing the 4th red flag that we have had this afternoon. The poll saying that we're likely to see another one then. Looking at the top 10, who is likely to cause that 5th red flag? You guys voted for it. It's Verstappen, Norris, Piastri, our top 3. And again, the top 4 were all within a 10th of a second until Max Verstappen just found another 10th or so right at the end there. Gabriel Bortoleto apologises to the team. Just couldn't quite get the lap time in at the Stake Sauber car. But again, he goes ahead of Nico Hülkenberg in qualifying. And he's 10-6 up in qualifying against Nico Hülkenberg is Gabriel Bortoleto. Is that even now 11-6 between those 2 off the top of my head? But Verstappen, Norris, Piastri, Russell appears to be our battle for pole position. Kimi Antonelli has also snuck himself into that battle. He was only 9 thousandths of a second slower than his teammate. Then it's Leclerc, Lawson, Hadjar, Sainz and Tsunoda from 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th and 10th. Then Alonso, Hamilton, Bortoleto and Stroll, the 4 drivers not fast enough, with Behrman dropping out early on in Q2. And a little reminder for those guys that have only just joined us, it was Colapinto, Hülkenberg, Ocon, Gasly and Albon, the 5 drivers who dropped out in Q1. Here we go then, final opportunity. Get your predictions into the chats. You got to lock them in early. Verstappen, Norris, Piastri, Russell, Antonelli, Leclerc. Who are you going for pole position here? Maybe even Lawson or Hadjar. Throw your predictions into the chat for me. I'd love to know who you think is going to come out on top. I think it's going to be very tight indeed. It would not surprise me if the top 4 or 5 are within a 10th or 2. Maybe even less. I could see it being very, very tight indeed. No Q3. You just want it locked in as it is now. No Q3. Verstappen pole. Lando Norris second. Let's all go home as it is right now. I think there's a couple of drivers that would quite like a Q3 to be able to possibly improve. Oscar Piastri probably being one of them. Starting behind his teammate. People going for Piastri pole. A few Verstappens in the chat. A Franz Hermann in the chat as well. I think and I want Leclerc. Norris sneaks it from Verstappen. We need a simply lovely. A lot of love for Verstappen getting pole position here. I mean, he was very quick in Monza. Won that Grand Prix fairly comfortably from the two McLaren cars, to be fair. And is a very similar build, isn't it, here in Azerbaijan. All about that straight line speed, particularly in the final sector. Although Verstappen sort of shining in the middle part of the lap, really, was where he came out on top. Here's a replay of Lance Stroll. What happened here? That's why Lance Stroll didn't improve on his lap time. He went down into turn 1 and did very similar to what Charles Leclerc did earlier on in the session, where just went way too deep and had to crazy tailwind for Lance Stroll. So just got really unlucky. And there's been a couple of drivers there where they've just got a little bit unlucky with a gust of wind causing them problems. Kimi Antonelli had it as well, where he was going down towards turn 16 and just got a huge gale wind gust that then put him under a little bit of pressure to perform in Q1, didn't it? Did manage to do so, though, and is now through to Q3 alongside his Mercedes teammate. Both of the Mercedes cars through, both of the Red Bull cars through, both of the McLarens through. It's only when you get to Ferrari that you start to notice one of them is missing. Both of the RB cars through as well. It's all 4 of the Red Bull powered cars through to Q3, and Carlos Sainz, the other driver in the mix. How much time till Q3? We are literally just about to get underway. Q3 will start at 17:18 local time, so 5:18 local time, and it is 16 minutes past. Just ticked over to 17 minutes past. So we are 60 seconds or so away from the start of qualifying. If Max wins tomorrow, is it silly to say he's back in championship contention? Yes. Yes, it is. Yeah. Doesn't he need like Piastri and Norris to like double DNF at some point and also finish like 3rd a lot of the time? Verstappen needs to win basically every single Grand Prix. So I think it would be. Indeed, 2 McLarens, 2 Red Bulls, 2 V-Carbs, 2 Mercedes, 1 Leclerc, 1 Sainz. Sainz is the for real Ferrari driver, so 2 Ferraris are in there. Wow. Thanks for reading our comments. No worries. Yeah, I think it's over for Max Verstappen, unfortunately. If we could hit the like button just before we get underway for Q3. We've got 500 people watching on the YouTube stream, another 500 people watching on the short stream, and then on Twitch, it's always a little bit different. We've got 10 viewers over on Twitch, but you know, if we could hit the like button over on the YouTube stream, that'd be absolutely amazing. And final plug, if you haven't watched the newest episode of the Crash Happy podcast that came out on Wednesday, I've linked the Crash Happy channel, first link in the description after qualifying. Give it a watch. We're trying to get monetized over on that channel and build it up a little bit so that the 5 of us can start doing some extra bits and pieces, possibly going to some events soon, possibly doing some videos out and about in real life. So please do help us out and get involved by following the channel over there as well. Mr. Cooper Block just followed over on Twitch too. You can follow over on Twitch if you prefer to watch these live streams over on Twitch. We're live on YouTube and Twitch every single weekend that there is a Formula 1 race. We'll be live once again tomorrow. We are into Q3 though. 11 minutes and 30 seconds to go, and the 2 McLaren drivers deciding it is time for them to get out on track, and they're joined by a few cars as they enter the pit lane. I think Kimi Antonelli has been able to jump to the front of the queue, although, oh no, it's George Russell, sorry. Lawson, Sainz and Hadjar though, because they're further down the pit lane, they're able to get out just before the top teams. Lawson, Sainz and Hadjar out ahead of our pole position contenders, has to be said. I'd be very, very surprised if Lawson, Sainz or Hadjar is in the running for it. And this is where, because we've got the C6 tyre this weekend, we're going to start to see a little bit of a change in terms of tyres that people decide to go out on. It is a bit of a mix. We've got Lando Norris on a slightly scrubbed set of mediums, Oscar Piastri on a brand new set of mediums, George Russell on a brand new set of mediums, Antonelli on a very old set of mediums, Charles Leclerc on a brand new set of mediums, Lawson and Hadjar both on scrubbed sets of softs, Sainz on a scrubbed set of mediums, Tsunoda on a scrubbed set of mediums, Verstappen on a scrubbed set of mediums as well. What happened to Hamilton? Just wasn't quick enough. Did not get a clean lap in Q2. And Hamilton dropped out in 12th place. Was just nowhere near fast enough. He was 10th fastest. Had the opportunity to improve. Didn't improve. So he had to go again on a very, very used set of tyres. And then the likes of Tsunoda and Verstappen and Sainz were just quicker than him. You know, they just dislodged him out of that bottom 5. Lawson, Sainz, Hadjar are more likely to get pole than Tsunoda. Wow. Victor. Not a fan of Yuki Tsunoda. I mean, Tsunoda did just scrape through there, so you might be right. Tsunoda was very, very close to not quite making it all the way through. What does the line through the tyre sign mean? It means that those tyres have been used before. So they are not fresh onto the car for this stint. It means that they've been previously used, whether that be in Q1 or Q2. George Russell then on a flying lap. Let's see some lap time starting to come in then. Lawson is going to come through the first sector to set the first flying lap. And it's a 36.0 for the first part of the Azerbaijan Grand Prix circuit. Carlos Sainz beats that with a 35.8, so is the quickest car out on track at the minute. Isaac Hadjar then comes through, isn't able to outdo Carlos Sainz, so Carlos Sainz has the advantage over the two RBs at the moment. Max Verstappen, oh, and George Russell has gone off at turn 4. And that's where the yellow is, and that's where Lando Norris has had to just deal with that yellow flag, almost puts it into the barriers on the outside of turn 4. George Russell gets himself back out onto the track. And Kimi Antonelli, I think, will have to slow down as George Russell then comes back out onto the track in front of him. Russell then moves out of the way of Antonelli. Certainly not going to help his teammates' lap time, I'll tell you that. Liam Lawson, though, is then outdone by Carlos Sainz in the middle part of the lap. Russell went straight. It's raining, says Max Verstappen, saying it's very slippery out on track. Lawson gets across the start-finish line for a 142.5. Carlos Sainz is also going to improve and go for a 141.595. Lawson on a used set of tyres. Hadjar then comes across the line, third fastest of the car so far. So it is advantage Carlos Sainz from the midfield drivers. Norris, Piastri, Russell, Antonelli, all running around at the moment. Well, Russell actually not so much. Antonelli now coming. Of course, Lando Norris got that yellow flag, so had to... Oh, and Charles Leclerc's in the wall. And it's a red flag. As Kimi Antonelli was about to set a lap time, and Charles Leclerc is in the wall. He's made a mistake at turn 15. And the frustration for Charles Leclerc is clear. He throws his gloves down onto the bonnet of his Ferrari car. And he's very, very frustrated with himself. We haven't seen the onboard from Charles Leclerc, but just the Ferrari car stationary at turn 15. The red flags were then waved. And they said it's... If Max Verstappen is right, and it starts raining now... Like, we could see a Carlos Sainz Williams pole position here. Oh, and it's a big shunt from Charles Leclerc. Just can't get the Ferrari car to stop. And he's not even close to making turn 15, to be honest. I'm sorry, Charles, but that was not likely to happen anytime soon. Charles Leclerc into the barriers and out of qualifying. Both Ferraris then from a very, very solid start to qualifying they had, did the Ferraris. Hamilton and Leclerc looking very quick in the first part of qualifying. I know they were on the softer tyre, but both of the Ferraris out of qualifying. And Sainz, Lawson, Hadjar are top 3. Again, if you're a fan of Carlos Sainz right now, do your rain dances, start turning on your sprinklers, do everything you possibly can, because if the rain comes now, similar to what we had with Kevin Magnussen, if you remember, in Brazil, where he managed to get a pole position for Haas. It's just being the first man out on track and being able to put that flying lap in early has meant that Carlos Sainz is in a brilliant position now if the rain does come, because we still haven't got... And Kimi Antonelli also saying the track is so slippery, the white lines are like ice. Max Verstappen has made his way back into the pits. We still haven't got Kimi Antonelli back into the pits yet, which means Charles Leclerc's car hasn't been moved yet either. So the red flag could be out for a little while here. It is our 5th red flag of the day. 5. Is that a record? That has to be a record, surely. Is there anywhere that's got a... Carlos Sainz also hoping that it's going to start to rain a little bit more now. The smooth operator is indeed top of the timing sheets right now. 3 drivers managed to get flying laps in. They were Sainz, Lawson and Hadjar. And they got them in the dry. And the ponchos are going on. Carlos Sainz, take a bow, son. You could get yourself a pole position in a Williams car. And who said that Carlos Sainz was having a bad season at Williams? Who said it? I swear I am cursed. Like, I just don't understand. I don't understand. I said it at the beginning of the stream. I said it on the podcast as well. Like, a few days ago, where I was like, I think Carlos Sainz has just had a pretty poor season at Williams. Nothing's really worked out for him. And now he's going to get a pole position. Like, if I say something bad about a driver, they go on to do a ridiculously good thing. That's how it works when it comes to Formula One. Swear to God, I've got the kiss of death, man. Have Carlos Sainz in your fantasy team. Oh. And the rain has come. The rain is falling, ladies and gentlemen. You can see at the top of your screens where it says red flag, right in the top left. If you go just across, you've got the track temperature, the air temperature, the humidity, and then the pressure. Finally on that list, you've got rain, and you will see a big YES. It is indeed raining here in Baku, and the rain has intensified for Carlos Sainz fans. Carlos Sainz pole position is looking very likely indeed, and he can thank his old teammate Charles Leclerc for it. Charles Leclerc wiping himself out of qualifying, steering his Ferrari car into the barriers at turn 15. Just could not get that Ferrari to stop. Gambled on it. Wasn't able to take the escape road down at turn 15 either. Just wiped himself nose first into the barriers there, Charles Leclerc. Causing that red flag. As I say, the 5th red flag of the session. 5 red flags. Those 65% of you that voted it would be more than 4.5 are absolutely spot on. Seen 3 red flags in Q1, another red flag in Q2 with Ollie Behrman. Now a final, I say final, a 5th, possibly final red flag in Q3 from Charles Leclerc. Oscar Piastri now looking at the timing sheets and going, well, at least it's not one of my title rivals that was up in that top 3. I think Piastri can deal with Sainz, Lawson and Hadjar being in front of him, as long as he's 4th fastest of the bunch going into tomorrow's Grand Prix. But Verstappen, Norris, Piastri, Russell, the battle that we thought was going to be for pole position now might end up being the battle for 4th place. And Antonelli, again, a red flag infringement And Antonelli saying he's too late to come into the pits. Ooh, I don't know if he was, though. Looking at the onboard, he lifted off. He made like he was going to pull into the pits, but then didn't come into the pits. I think he was too late in terms of where the pit lane entrance is drawn onto the track. So Kimi Antonelli, another little infringement that is going to be investigated. Antonelli's got a couple now that are going to be investigated later. Bortoletto, Leclerc, Stroll also on the investigations list. The red flag has dropped to a yellow, which means we are almost set to get back underway. It is still turn 15. They're probably just putting that barrier back together again, because it did take quite a whack. This is the problem with these Tech Pro barriers, is you do have to sort of replace them and rejig them once somebody decides to pierce their nose through them, just in case, because you wouldn't want another person to come through and then hit the barrier behind the Tech Pro barrier. So Tech Pro barrier itself has to be slotted in. The McLaren's in trouble. Everybody's in trouble unless you're Carlos Sainz. Well, unless you're Carlos Sainz, Liam Lawson, or Isaac Hadjar. Everybody's in trouble now because the rain did fall. It has stopped raining now, at least from what I can see in the pit lane. Possibly still raining on various parts of the track. I'll tell you what, multi-viewer need a rain radar. That's what they need. That would be an incredible thing if multi-viewer could add a rain radar to their setup. That would be very cool indeed. Please say something about Fernando ASAP. He's gone. He's out. He was 11th fastest. Yuki Tsunoda snuck through to Q3. Fernando Alonso starts 11th tomorrow. Just ahead of Lewis Hamilton, who also wasn't good enough in Q2. Track will be very green and slippery. That's what I mean. The rain has fallen. And even though it's not falling as heavily anymore by the looks of things, just that quick shower will change everything around, as we see a few of the marshals having a little dance around. They're obviously playing some music over the speakers in Baku. Can we see Tsunoda in 4th? I would be less willing to say yes to that. What happened to Lewis? Just wasn't quick enough. Just kept making little errors throughout all of his Q2 laps. Nothing really smooth or connected, and that Ferrari just suddenly became really, really difficult to drive as they got into Q2. And wasn't good enough. And then, well, Charles Leclerc showing that it's also continued to be difficult to drive in Q3 as he put his Ferrari car into the barriers and out of qualifying. Lando Norris watching and waiting. Are there inters in the garage? Oh yeah, there'll be intermediate tyres. I doubt we'll see the intermediate tyres. It wasn't that heavy a rainfall. And the rain has now stopped, as you can see, again, top of the screens there, just next to where it has the pressure on the track. It also has a rain yes or no, and at the moment there is no rain falling on the track. So the track is ready to go. They're just putting together that Tech Pro barrier. As I say, it's Charles Leclerc basically speared the Tech Pro barrier at turn 15. So they just needed to make sure that that Tech Pro barrier was replaced. Has now been replaced. The green flags have waved. Track is clear in sector 15. Can we now see a green flag at the end? There we go. Q3 will resume at 5:37. Says it just down below me on the main YouTube and main Twitch streams. Apologies, you guys on the short stream. Don't get quite as much information. You can see it just below me there, but below the Baku track map, we are green. Q3 will resume in 3 minutes time. In 3 minutes time, we will get back underway in Q3. Oscar Piastri waiting and watching, the man currently leading the World Drivers' Championship. stares into the barrel of the camera, knowing that he won here last year. A win here this year would be absolutely delightful, especially as we're going into Singapore, which we know is a track that Lando Norris does very well at. And going into the final part of the season, 8 races left to go, just a third of the year. Over 30 points, the margin to his teammate behind. He knows that just a few more wins would make it really, really difficult for Lando Norris. It is already quite difficult. Couple more wins for Oscar Piastri makes it almost impossible for Lando Norris to get back into championship contention without something similar to what happened to Lando Norris in the Netherlands happening to Oscar Piastri equally. So we see Max Verstappen also waiting to run out. We were expecting this to be the battle, weren't we? Verstappen, Norris, Piastri, Russell, those 4 looking very tidy indeed this weekend throughout the first parts of qualifying. George Russell really coming into his own in Q2, getting much closer to that top 3 of Verstappen, Russell, and Verstappen, Norris, and Piastri. But it's actually Carlos Sainz who is looking out the window of the Williams garage and going, does it have to stop raining? Can we get some more rain on the track, maybe? Just a little bit or so. It was already getting very slippery. We had Max Verstappen and Kimi Antonelli on the radio complaining about how slippery the track was. And Lewis Hamilton just talking about his day and how disappointing he is with his performance. But we are about to get back underway. We are a minute away, less than, as the cars start to make their way out into the pit lane. Cars wanting to get out there early. It's soft compound tyres on Lando Norris's car. Soft compound tyres on Piastri's car as well. And Piastri intercepted by the 2 Mercedes cars by the looks of things. So Lando Norris was able to get to the end of the pit lane in the lead of those 4. The 2 RBs and Carlos Sainz, of course, ahead. Oh, and there was a Red Bull that snuck out earlier than I didn't see. So I think Max Verstappen might actually be first in the queue of anybody. I thought it was Carlos Sainz, Liam Lawson, and Isaac Hadjar that were ahead of the pack. Then it's Norris, the 2 Mercedes cars. Piastri then 8th in the queue, effectively, of the 9 cars still out there for qualifying. Charles Leclerc, remember, out of the session. Sainz, Lawson, and Hadjar, the only 3 that were able to get themselves a flying lap time before the 5th red flag of this qualifying day dropped in Baku. Will there be a 6th? Victor says in the chat. I mean, I wasn't expecting 5 before the day started, so why not a 6th? Verstappen then is the first man out on track and gets going pretty swiftly. Does Max Verstappen, puts a gap between him and Carlos Sainz. Carlos Sainz then trying to get out of there. Lando Norris being put under pressure by the Mercedes behind. George Russell having a little look at whether or not he could get past the McLaren car. He's going to have to wait, though, I think. Lando Norris still ahead of George Russell. Kimi Antonelli also comes out ahead of Oscar Piastri. Piastri gives the Italian driver a bit of space. George Russell right under the rear wing of Lando Norris in this slow lap as they make their way around. As I say, Max Verstappen is going to be the first driver to set a new flying lap time. This is the question now, isn't it? Has the rain reset the track enough? Has it made the track slippery enough that we're going to see a Carlos Sainz pole position? A 141.5 is not too shabby a lap time from Carlos Sainz at all, by the way. He's a second quicker than Lawson and Hadjar behind. But it's just whether or not there was enough rainfall to make it just slippery enough for it to play into Carlos Sainz's favour. I think, though, we're likely to see at least a Red Bull or a McLaren be able to get ahead of Carlos Sainz here. We'll have to wait and see. We'll have to wait and see. Never say never in Formula One. Here comes Max Verstappen then to get us back underway. The final qualifying session of the weekend. 5 minutes on the clock. Who will be on pole position for tomorrow's Grand Prix? Another red flag is coming. Lawson and Hadjar. The rain can kill us, guys. Come on. Hadjar already with a podium place to his name. A top 3 in qualifying would also be pretty sensational for your rookie season. But Max Verstappen is 0.2 of a second quicker than Carlos Sainz through the first sector. The rain wasn't heavy enough by the looks of things. As Max Verstappen on the medium tyres is improving his lap time. Carlos Sainz deciding to back out of that lap as well and make his way into the pits once again. So Lawson and Hadjar, the 2 drivers behind Max Verstappen. Lando Norris is who I've got my eyes on. Those just coming through turn 3 and turn 4. Let's see what his first sector is like in comparison to Verstappen's. Just comes around now. He is quicker than Max Verstappen through the first sector is Lando Norris, and by a considerable chunk as well, as Verstappen's second sector is not the quickest of anybody so far in this third qualifying session. And there's a yellow flag, and it's Oscar Piastri is in the wall. Piastri looks to have gone off. He's stationary down at turn 3. He's in the wall, and it's a red flag, and Max Verstappen is not going to set a lap time, and we've got 3 minutes and 41 seconds on the clock, and it's going to be Piastri out. That is a devastating blow for Piastri, and a huge, huge swing for the championship. Oh my goodness, Piastri has made a mistake down at turn 3, and that is a big shunt for Oscar Piastri as well. Similar to what Charles Leclerc did down at turn 15, Oscar Piastri has embedded his McLaren car into the wall. There is your 6th red flag, ladies and gentlemen. 6 red flags during qualifying. Andrea Stella looks on and can only wonder what could have been, as the McLaren team were trying to seal the Constructors' Championship. But Piastri wasn't even close. Wasn't even close. Brakes way too late. Couldn't get the rotation in the car at all. Pushed it way too hard. And just slid away from him, spearing into the barriers at turn 3. And a heavy, heavy shunt for Oscar Piastri as well. But that does mean Carlos Sainz is still a pole position sitter right now. Pole position is still in Carlos Sainz's hands, with 3 minutes and 41 seconds to play out. Oscar Piastri takes a seat on the outside of turn 3. He's going to walk his way over to the medical cart. This could be huge for Lando Norris then. He's got an opportunity now to start on pole position with his teammate towards the back end of the top 10. Charles Leclerc is out. Oscar Piastri will start 9th, as long as everybody else gets a lap time in, of course. But Piastri into the barriers at turn 3. And is this the kind of to and fro that we needed for Lando Norris in the championship? Is this Lando Norris's big opportunity to stamp the fact that he is a real championship contender on these final 8 races of the season? It's his first big mistake of the season, you have to say. I know he went wide in Australia and was running behind his teammate, ended up finishing in 9th place. He's been pretty much perfect since then. But now, Oscar Piastri has made a mistake. Wow. The drivers are all back into the pits then. Oscar will bounce back. Oh yeah, just because he's starting in 9th place doesn't mean he'll finish there. But it's certainly opened the door for Lando Norris. If Lando Norris can get a win tomorrow, 25 points on the board, Piastri maybe finishes 5th, 6th, 7th, maybe. It's a huge swing in the favour of Lando Norris, considering the other big swings this season. You're looking at Canada. That was a huge swing in Lando Norris's favour after they came together and Lando Norris dropped out of the points. Piastri ended up finishing 4th. That was a huge 10 points dropped for Lando Norris. And then also the Netherlands, where Lando Norris was running comfortably in 2nd place and then came to a stop with a mechanical failure. Those have been the huge swings in the championship so far. Lando Norris now at least has an opportunity to put one of those swings in his favour, to at least put one of those swings back into the Lando Norris camp. Zach Brown spotted in the pit lane, holding what seems to be important bolts to an F1 car. Max Verstappen. Red flag infringement. Let's have a little look. Same as Kimi Antonelli's. The red flag showed, but he'd already made it past the pit entry. So Verstappen having to do a whole other lap under the red flag conditions, because by the time he saw the red flags being waved, he was already past the point where you can actually pull in to the pit lane. The recovery vehicle has moved Oscar Piastri's car. Just yellow flags being waved down in that sector now then. The red flag has been removed. And we just wait for, again, another Tech Pro barrier to be replaced. Took a few minutes down at turn 15. It will take similar amount of time, I'd imagine, down at turn 3. They just need to replace, again, that whole Tech Pro barrier section where Oscar Piastri's front wing is lodged inside of it. Zach Brownstein telling Lando not to set a lap time to make it fair in the championship. Oh, Josh. I mean, it would be fair. It would be fair. Here we are then. 3 minutes 41 seconds to go. As I say, Carlos Sainz still on provisional pole. But the track will be drying out even more now then, because the rain has stopped and the sun has come back out once again for the fans out in Azerbaijan. Oscar Piastri not very happy at all, as you can imagine. Driver number 81 makes his walk down the pit lane. At least it's not a very long walk from the McLaren garage to the top end of the pit lane. But Oscar Piastri out of qualifying. As I say, that is huge for this year's championship. Are we going to ignore Lawson P2? I mean, it's all a big story right now. The top 3, Carlos Sainz, Liam Lawson, Isaac Hadjar. And there is a little bit of rain. There's a little bit of rain there on the pit lane. It's just a light little bit of rain, not enough to set off the yes on the system from Multiviewer, but just a drizzle of rain. Oof. Both Leclerc's crashed. Very true. Piastri just committed to it way too early as well. Could have used the escape road down there at turn 3 and hits himself, or hits his hands on his steering wheel in frustration. Is okay. Wandered back towards the grid and will start tomorrow's Grand Prix, Oscar Piastri, but from where is the thing we need to know. Lap times need to be set, really. Piastri and Leclerc have removed themselves. So 8 cars still in the running for pole position here. 6 red flags we've had this afternoon. But 3 minutes and 41 seconds for Sainz, Lawson, Hadjar, Verstappen, Norris, Russell, Antonelli and Yuki Tsunoda to improve their lap times. Zach Brown using his godly papaya power to compensate for Lando's engine failure. It's not over for Piastri this weekend by any stretch of the imagination. I still feel like, well, he showed last year he can overtake here in Baku. But it's just made the whole afternoon for Oscar Piastri tomorrow that little bit more difficult. Carlos Sainz, though, on for his 7th pole position of his career. 6 pole positions, of course. Did a good job when he was at Ferrari, Carlos Sainz. Pole positions and wins under his belt. Became a real contender for wins when the kind of Verstappens, Norrises had off weekends. Isaac Hadjar, cool, calm, collected inside of that Red Bull car. Has his eyes closed inside of that Red Bull car. Just taking a short nap before his final run out in qualifying. 3rd fastest at the moment is Isaac Hadjar. And one of only 3 drivers that has been able to set a flying lap time. Lando's got to crush his opportunity. This is what I mean. It's a real big chance for Lando to put some top draw points on the board, isn't it? A win for Lando Norris tomorrow, starting from pole position, where Piastri has got to fight his way through the pack, would be absolutely huge for Lando. I think the only thing that this is also telling us is safety cars and red flags tomorrow almost guaranteed, right? So there's the other problem that you've got to play into is, when will you pit? Will there be safety cars? When will those safety cars happen? That's completely unpredictable. So it's not going to be easy for anybody tomorrow. And anything could play against anybody at any moment. So even if you do qualify on pole position, it's certainly not done and dusted. But at least it gives you the advantage going into the start of tomorrow's race, if not the rest of it. Q3 will resume at 5:54. We are 3.5 minutes away from Q3 getting back underway once again. There's only just over 3.5 minutes to run. 3 minutes 41 seconds on the clock. 8 drivers remain. Sainz, Lawson, Hadjar, Verstappen, Norris, Russell, Antonelli, Tsunoda. We have both Piastri and Leclerc out of qualifying. And it's been on and off rain. It really has. Started raining. It's dropped away. It's raining a little bit more now, actually. Raining just a little bit more. The rain was expected to come during qualifying. To be fair, if we hadn't had all of these red flags, we wouldn't have seen any rain at all. Like, it's only come in the last sort of 20 minutes or so. We've had quite a lot of red flag interruptions. I say quite a lot. We've had 6 red flag interruptions during qualifying today. 3 in Q1, just the 1 in Q2, and then 2 in Q3 with Leclerc and Piastri putting themselves out of contention. Verstappen pole, please. Carlos Sainz needs that pole position. Yeah, and Oscar Piastri having a chat. Just locked his brakes, he says. A little bit late. And a disappointing way to end, in Piastri's opinion. Yeah, Piastri just saying, maybe tried a little bit too hard, maybe just went in a little bit too hot, and the brakes didn't quite react how he was expecting them to react. That's why he ended up seeing the barriers a little bit closer to the front end of his car than he would have liked them to be. The red flag prediction was my best prediction in a while. Yeah, people who went for 5 and above, you've absolutely smashed it. 6 now. 6 red flags is just insane. But Sainz still up there. 3 minutes, 41 seconds on the clock. Drivers making their way to the bottom of the pit lane. We're going to be back underway as soon as, really, the clock ticks over. We've got a queue in the pit lane already. Lando Norris at the front of the queue in the pit lane. Will he be at the front of the pack come the start of tomorrow's Grand Prix? Lando Norris, an opportunity now to really put the knife deeper into the heart of Oscar Piastri. Wouldn't swing him back into championship contention, most definitely. You know, he wouldn't take the lead of the championship or anything like that, even with a win tomorrow, with Piastri dropping out of the points completely. But it would close that gap by a considerable margin going into some races where we know Piastri was a little bit weaker last year and Lando Norris was very, very strong indeed. But this year's a new year. Don't count Oscar Piastri out just because he has made a mistake in qualifying. Sainz on the medium tyre, Lawson and Hadjar on the soft, Verstappen medium, Lando Norris goes soft, Russell goes soft, Antonelli goes medium. It's a real mix of the tyres out there on track. But Carlos Sainz still provisional pole. Lando Norris then coming around turn 7 now. The rain is continuing to form. Is indeed continuing to fall. Do you go for it? How hard does Lando Norris want to go for this? Can see Carlos Sainz with a 141.5. He knows that's achievable inside of the McLaren car, but needs to make sure that he gets it around. Doesn't want to do what his teammate did, as George Russell overtook Carlos Sainz in the pit lane. And George Russell there deciding to overtake Carlos Sainz in the pit lane is a weird one. He crossed the white line completely, did George Russell. Is that one allowed? We'll wait and see what the stewards say. Here we go then. Lando Norris. Let's keep an eye on the McLaren car as he comes across the start-finish line now to set a flying lap. 1 minute 45 seconds on the clock. Really his only opportunity to get a flying lap in. Certainly the only opportunity for the guys behind him. Here comes Lando Norris through turn 1 and turn 2. It is very tight to the inside wall from Lando Norris. He is leaving nothing to chance out on the racetrack. Down turn 3 where his teammate made that mistake. Little squirm on the exit of turn 3. Moves over to the left-hand side of the track for turn 4. Very clean through turn 4, it has to be said, from Lando Norris. Now gets a little bit of the power down into the left-hander at turn 5. Right-hander for turn 6. You want to get as close to the barrier on the outside as you can, as Lando Norris does. Then down towards turn 7 into this middle part of the lap. It's a little bit of a slower first sector from Lando Norris than we've seen before, but there is more rain on the track, and it doesn't mean that he is not going to be able to get a faster lap than Carlos Sainz. Here we go then, down through turn 13, 14, 15. We've seen Charles Leclerc put himself into the barriers here. Can Lando Norris make sure that this middle part is completed? Yes, indeed. Gets very close to the outside of turn 15. I think maybe even bumps the wall, but Lando Norris through the middle part of the lap. He's 0.5 of a second down on Carlos Sainz's time though. So it is going to be at best second fastest unless this final sector is absolutely blistering from Lando Norris. Unlikely, but second place is up for grabs. Max Verstappen, though, has gone quickest of anybody through the first sector. George Russell also struggled through the first sector initially, but is improving. Here comes Lando Norris, goes second fastest. 6.5 tenths off Carlos Sainz's lap time. Here comes George Russell to go quicker than Lando Norris. So Lando Norris is going to start behind the Mercedes car and behind Carlos Sainz. Max Verstappen then is trying to displace Carlos Sainz from top spot. Carlos Sainz isn't going to improve. Here comes Liam Lawson to go within 1/10 of a second. Just over 1/10, sorry, of Carlos Sainz. Liam Lawson is going to start in second place. Kimi Antonelli goes into third, and Lando Norris is falling down the order. Lando Norris now starting 5th at best. But here comes Verstappen, and Verstappen surely is going to go quicker after a very solid first and second sectors, and it's a stunning lap from Max Verstappen to take pole position. Oh my goodness, nearly 0.5 seconds quicker than Carlos Sainz. Max Verstappen delivers once again. Yuki Tsunoda outqualifies Lando Norris, and Norris drops down to 7th place. We talked about it, we said it, Lando Norris needed the lap of his life there, and he's down in 7th place, only quicker than Isaac Hadjar was Lando Norris in that final flying lap. Verstappen, Sainz, Lawson is our top 3. Verstappen starts on pole position once again. Surely a win for the Red Bull in the bag, as long as tomorrow isn't a ridiculous safety car red flag bonanza, but I don't think we can predict that just yet. Antonelli and Russell start in 4th and 5th place. Tsunoda will start in 6th place. Lando Norris will start on the 4th row of the grid, down in 7th place. 8th place, Isaac Hadjar. And Oscar Piastri, after what felt like an absolutely devastating crash in qualifying, will start looking at the rear wing of his teammate. Piastri will be looking at the back of Lando Norris's car come the grid tomorrow afternoon. Charles Leclerc will start in 10th place. Wow. That really played against Lando Norris. Want to see that on board again. It was a slow first sector from Lando Norris. He was a little bit all over the place through turn 15 as well. I think bumped the wall through turn 15. Carlos Sainz, though, starts 2nd place. Still only 6 pole positions to his name, but a podium place possibly up for grabs tomorrow for the Williams car. If he can get his defensive position, he's going to have to get his elbows out, is Carlos Sainz, to keep the other cars behind. Liam Lawson also watched his teammate get a podium in the Netherlands. Now an opportunity to get a podium for himself. Goodness me. Wow, wow, wow. What a qualifying session we had. It has been absolutely brilliant to spend it with you, and I will see you guys tomorrow. A quick rundown of our 20 then. Max Verstappen starts on pole position tomorrow. Carlos Sainz beside him in 2nd place. I mean, we've seen that a few times when Carlos Sainz was in a Ferrari. Not so much expecting that now that Carlos Sainz is racing in blue, but he is there once again. Liam Lawson and Kimi Antonelli will be starting, fighting it out for the final podium place in 3rd and 4th. George Russell and Yuki Tsunoda 5th and 6th fastest. Lando Norris, that huge opportunity goes slipping through his fingers. He starts in 7th place tomorrow with Isaac Hadjar beside him and Oscar Piastri behind him in 9th place. Charles Leclerc starts in 10th. They were the 10 drivers to make it through to Q3. Fernando Alonso was the driver that just missed out as Yuki Tsunoda sneaked into Q3. Alonso dropped out in 11th place. Lewis Hamilton not quick enough in Q2. He starts in 12th. Gabriel Bortoleto and Lance Stroll also mistakes costing them in Q2. They start in 13th and 14th place. Ollie Behrman, his crash in Q2, consolidating his 15th place start, but did make it through to Q2. Colapinto, his mistake right at the end of Q3 meant that he was out. 16th place for him tomorrow. 17th place for Nico Hulkenberg, who also caused a red flag. Esteban Ocon dropped out in 18th place. Pierre Gasly went to the escape road and dropped out in 19th. And Alex Albon, the first driver to bring out the red flags, the first of 6 red flags for Alex Albon. He was in 20th place come the start of tomorrow's Grand Prix. As I said, thank you guys so much for watching. Leave a like, subscribe. Do me a big favor, okay? If you are here right now and if you have enjoyed the stream, please hit that first link in the description, head over to the Crash Abbey podcast and just watch one of them. You know, they're not all, you know, all about Formula One. You can kind of watch them out of order. You don't need to really watch them too much in sync. Pick one of those 3 podcasts, watch it all the way through for me. Let me know what you think. Let me know what you think we can improve. Subscribe over on that channel as well, and that will be absolutely incredible. And just watch one of the episodes all the way through. That's all I ask. Watch it all the way through. Then let me know what you think. Thank you so much. I will see you tomorrow. It is going to be an absolute bonanza. Baku delivers bonanzas.